Story 1. This story is titled, Fiancé Decided I Wasn't Good Enough After She Got Fit, so I dumped her and canceled the wedding. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Man, 27 male, never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest. Been with my fiancée, I'll call her Amy, 27 female, for 9 years, since we were both freshmen in college. You know those relationships where everything just feels right? That was us. Or at least I thought it was. We met at this stupid campus event. I was helping set up chairs. Yeah, I was that guy who actually volunteered for stuff. And she was there with her friend group. She was shy back then, kind of kept to herself, but we got talking about random stuff and just clicked. Started dating a few weeks later. What drew me to Amy the most back then wasn't just how pretty she was. It was how genuinely kind and humble she wasn't flashy, didn't care about expensive things, and always talked about wanting a simple, happy life. She'd rather stay in and watch movies than go out partying. She got excited over small things, finding a new coffee shop, getting a good deal on groceries, or even just spotting a cute dog on the street. She had this way of making normal, boring moments feel special. And man, she used to be so sweet. The kind of person who'd write little notes for me if she left early, surprise me with my favorite snacks, or send a random thinking of you text just because. Things were great for years, like genuinely great. We moved in together after graduation, got decent jobs, had this whole future planned out. I proposed years ago. Nothing fancy, just a nice dinner at home, and then I got down on one knee. She cried. I cried. It was perfect. That's when everything started changing, but I was too dumb to see it coming. Right after the proposal, Amy said she wanted to wait to set a wedding date until she reached her goal weight. Said she wanted the dress to fit in to look perfect in the wedding photos. Made sense to me. Everyone wants to look good on their big day, right? I had her back 100%. Got her workout gear, stocked the house with healthy food, and listened to all the talk about calories, macros, and whatever else. Even gave some of her workouts a shot, but they weren't really my thing. I'm more of a powerlifting guy. Built for strength, not endurance. Got that strongman, bear mode physique going on. Never used to be a problem. In fact, she loved it. Always said she felt safe when I hugged her. She started going to this fancy gym downtown. That's where she met Jen, her new trainer. At first, Jen seemed cool, really motivated, always posting inspiring stuff on social media. Amy would come home from sessions with her all excited about reaching new goals. I was happy for her. The weight started coming off pretty fast, like noticeably fast. Amy was working really hard, I'll give her that. But with every pound she lost, she seemed to get different, more distant. Started spending more and more time at the gym, always texting with Jen about workout plans and meal prep. Then the comments started, little ones at first. Maybe you should try eating what I'm eating? Or, Jen says couples who work out together stay together? I tried not to let it bother me, but they kept coming, getting more frequent, more pointed. One night, we were getting ready for bed, and Amy was checking herself out in the mirror. By then, she'd lost about 50 pounds. Then, without even looking at me, she goes, "You know, guys at the gym have started noticing me." Said it super casual, like she was commenting on the weather. I laughed it off, tried to make a joke, but something about the way she said it made my stomach twist. I still remember exactly what she said next. It's crazy how many options there are once you get in shape. Options. That word stuck in my head, like I was just one option among many now. Started noticing other changes too. Her Instagram posts got more attention-seeking, I guess. Lots of gym selfies, progress pics, that kind of thing. The comment section was always full of random guys leaving fire emojis and worse. She said it was just part of building her brand, whatever that means. Our regular date nights turned into her taking pictures of everything for social media. Couldn't just enjoy a meal anymore. Had to get the perfect angle, the perfect lighting. Sometimes the food would be cold by the time she finished taking pictures. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs. How she started dressing different, not just because of the weight loss, but like, provocative? Started wearing crop tops to family dinners, that kind of thing. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that she was just excited about her progress. People get like that when they're working towards a goal, right? Get a little obsessed, a little focused on themselves. It'll pass, I thought. But the changes in Amy just kept getting more obvious. By month 8 of her fitness journey, that's what she called it on social media, she'd lost over 100 pounds. And honestly, she looked incredible, like straight up model level gorgeous. Not gonna lie about that. But her personality, that changed way more than her body did. Remember that trainer Jen I mentioned? Turns out she wasn't just a trainer. She was running this whole women's empowerment thing at the gym. Sounds good, right? Except her version of empowerment was basically telling girls they needed to level up and find better guys. Amy started repeating all these weird phrases Jen would say, like, know your worth and never settle. So I noticed how Amy started critiquing everything about me. She never did that before. My clothes, you dress like a dad, my workouts, powerlifting is going to make you fat. Even the way I eat, no one needs that much protein. It was constant. Every day, some new comment about how I needed to change. The worst part? She'd do it in front of people, like when her gym friends came over for dinner. Yeah, that was a thing now. Every meal had to be Instagram-worthy. She'd make these jokes about how I was letting myself go while she was glowing up. Her friends would laugh, and I'd just sit there feeling like garbage. Started noticing weird stuff on her phone, too. She'd get all these DMs from random guys, which she said was just networking. Changed her phone password. Started taking her phone with her everywhere, even to shower. Real subtle, right? One day I was doing laundry and found this tiny gym outfit in her bag, way smaller than what she usually wears to work out. Asked her about it and she got super defensive, said it was for a special project with Jen. Didn't think much of it at the time. Wish I had. Things got worse at the gym too. She'd spend hours there, way longer than any normal workout should take. Always had some excuse. Extra cardio, posing practice, whatever that is. Meetings with Jen about business opportunities. Started going on weekends too, even though we used to have this rule about weekends being our time together. The social media stuff was getting out of control. Every post had to be perfect. She'd make me take like 50 pictures of her in different poses, then complain that none of them were good enough. Started posting these motivational captions about not letting anyone hold you back and reaching your full potential. Pretty sure those were aimed at me. I also noticed she wasn't wearing her engagement ring anymore. At first, I thought maybe she took it off for the gym, but then I realized she wasn't wearing it anywhere anymore. I asked her about it one day, and she just shrugged. Doesn't really match my gym aesthetic, she said, barely looking up from her phone. I tried to laugh it off. Oh, so your aesthetic is single now? She just smirked. Something like that. And that hit different. I didn't say anything, but deep down, something twisted in my gut. It was like she'd already decided. She was halfway out the door, just waiting for the right moment to leave. But the final straw for me was one morning. I was in the kitchen flipping protein pancakes, because, trying to be supportive of her diet, when Amy casually says, I could replace you so easily now. Just straight up, like she was commenting on the weather, like she was telling me we needed more eggs or something. I froze mid-flip, spatula in my hand, brain struggling to process if I actually heard that right. I felt it's too much. She literally crossed the line. I turned to her, trying to keep my voice even. What do you mean by that? She just laughed, waving a hand like it was some kind of joke. Oh, come on, don't get all serious. I just mean, I have options now. Options? I repeated, setting the spatula down. Since when was this a job listing? Amy smirked, grabbing her coffee. Relax. I just mean, things are different now. Like, this guy Mark at the gym? He's a personal trainer and runs his own business. That's the kind of ambition I need in my life. I just blinked at her. Ambition? Amy, we bought a house together last year. I'm literally a software engineer. I do pretty well for us. She shrugged, sipping her coffee like this wasn't completely insane. Yeah, but I don't know. It's different. Mark has that hustle, That drive. I stared at her, waiting for her to crack and admit this was some kind of weird joke. But she didn't. Just sat there, totally unbothered, like she hadn't just told me to my face that I was suddenly not enough for her. That was the moment something shifted. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on yet. But I knew. This wasn't just a joke. It was freaking disrespect. Then my friends noticed something was up. My buddy Tom tried to talk to me about it. Said Amy was acting different at group hangouts. Said she was flirting with guys right in front of me. I defended her just to brush their doubts. Said she was just being friendly. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Even my mom started asking questions. It's bad when your mom notices, right? She came over for Sunday dinner, another tradition Amy suddenly didn't have time for. And Amy spent the whole time on her phone, barely said 2 words to anyone. At that point, I started wondering if the Amy I knew was ever coming back, or if this was just who she was now. Every day, it felt like she was slipping further away, not just from me, but from everything we built together. The inside jokes, the lazy Sunday mornings, the way she used to light up when we talked about the future. Now, it was like she was living in a different world, one where I was just background noise. And yeah, I started doubting if this relationship had a future, if I was holding on to something that was already gone. But then I'd catch glimpses of the old her, like when she absent-mindedly reached for my hand in the car, or when she laughed at one of my dumb jokes, and I'd convince myself that maybe, just maybe, this was a phase she'd snap out of. that the person I fell in love with was still in there somewhere, just lost for a little while. Then, out of nowhere, Amy's sister Sarah texted me one morning asking if we could meet up. Said it was important. Sarah and I always got along pretty well. She's younger than Amy, 25, but way more down to earth. We met at this little coffee shop near my work. Sarah looked really nervous, kept fidgeting with her cup. Finally, she just comes out with it. Amy's been saying terrible things about me to our whole family. Turns out Amy had been telling everyone how embarrassing it was to have a fat sister. Sarah's not even fat, she's just normal-sized. Said she couldn't have Sarah in her wedding photos because it would ruin her aesthetic. But that wasn't even the main reason Sarah wanted to talk. She'd found something way worse. See, Sarah works in IT and knows her way around computers. She noticed Amy had been making weird excuses about money lately, saying she needed extra cash for gym equipment and special training sessions. Sarah did some digging and found Amy's secret OnlyFans account. Not just random gym pics either, like really explicit stuff. And get this, she was using our house, for some of these photos. That weird gym outfit I found? Yeah, not for the gym. I was freaking sure that trainer Jen is the reason. She's got this whole side business going. Gets girls from the gym to start OnlyFans accounts, then takes a cut of their earnings. She sells it to them as female empowerment and taking control of their sexuality or whatever. Amy had fallen for it completely. I sat there in that coffee shop just staring at my cup. Sarah showed me some of the tamer posts, mostly gym pics, but with these suggestive captions about private coaching sessions and stuff. The account had been up for months, started right around when she changed her phone password. The worst part? In her OV bio, Amy wrote she was single. Just straight up erased our whole relationship. 9 years together, 2 years engaged, and I'm just gone. Like I never existed. Sarah told me more stuff too. Apparently, Amy had been going to these photo shoots at the gym after hours. That's what all those late-night training sessions and those business meetings with Jen, they were planning more content, finding ways to get more subscribers. I asked Sarah why she was telling me all this. She started crying, said she couldn't watch Amy destroy her life anymore, said Amy had changed so much she didn't even recognize her own sister. The girl who used to bake cookies for homeless shelters was now posting links to her off in random guys' DMs. She also showed me screenshots of Amy's private Instagram messages. Hundreds of conversations with random guys. Lots of them married dudes. Some even had kids. She was selling them special custom content, if you know what I mean. I just sat there feeling sick. All those times she was on her phone during family dinners, all those networking messages, yeah, now I knew what that was about. Sarah had more screenshots. Amy and Jen's messages planning this whole thing. Jen telling Amy she was too hot to be with some tech nerd and needed to find a guy on her level. Amy agreeing, saying she was ready to upgrade. Sarah even found messages from 6 months ago, where Amy was venting to Jen about how she wanted out, but wasn't financially stable enough yet. In one, she wrote, "I just need to hit 50,000 followers, then I can start pulling in real money. Until then, it's not smart to rush things." Another message had Amy complaining that she was stuck playing house with a loser, but at least he pays for everything so I can focus on my goals. She even admitted she was biding her time until she found someone better. Reading those messages made my stomach turn. I wasn't just an afterthought. I was a stepping stone. Sarah was really worried about me, kept saying she was sorry, that she should have told me sooner. But honestly, I was just grateful someone finally showed me the truth. Got back to work after that, but couldn't focus at all. Kept thinking about all those nights Amy was at the gym. All those times she was texting and smiling at her phone. Everything made sense now. That night I didn't go home. I couldn't. Just the thought of seeing her, acting normal like she hadn't completely shattered everything we built, made me sick. I crashed at my buddy Tom's place, lying awake, trying to process everything. Sarah kept checking in, making sure I wasn't spiraling, but honestly, I was too numb to even respond much. Instead, I spent the whole night just going through the evidence she sent me, staring at the screen like maybe I'd wake up and it would all be some messed up dream. But the more I looked, the worse it got. I found Amy's backup Instagram, one I had no idea existed. And yeah, it was bad. Way more revealing pictures than she'd ever post on her main account, like she was advertising herself. The comments were full of guys telling her how good she looked, how they'd treat her better than her current man. And the worst part? She responded. Winky faces, flirty replies, like our years together meant absolutely nothing. Like losing some weight was all it took for her to forget who she was, who we were. My stomach twisted, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was absolutely done. So I went home early the next morning. Figured she'd still be asleep since she usually sleeps in on weekday, her rest day. She was in the kitchen making her morning protein shake when I walked in. Didn't even look up from her phone. "Where were you last night?" she asked. still scrolling. Had a really interesting talk with Sarah yesterday, I said. The way her head snapped up. Man, I'll never forget that look. Like she knew exactly what was coming. What did that jealous bitch say about me now? Amy tried to play it cool, but her voice was shaking. I don't know, Amy. Maybe we should talk about your OnlyFans career? Or all those DMS you've been sending? Or how about those special photo shoots with Jen? She tried to deny it at first. I don't know what you're talking about. Sarah's just making stuff up because she's jealous of my success. Success? I laughed. You mean scamming guys online while pretending to be single? Using our house for your photos? That kind of success? Then she switched tactics real quick. Started crying, saying she only did it for us, to make extra money for the wedding. I was like, really? Is that why your bio says you're single? That's just marketing, she yelled. You don't understand how this works. Jen says, Jen says, Jen says. That's all I've heard for months. Well, guess what? I saw your messages with Jen too, about how you're too good for some tech nerd now, about how you need to upgrade. She went quiet for a minute, then her whole attitude changed, got this weird smirk on her face. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I have an OnlyFans. Yes, I've been talking to other guys. And yes, I probably could do better than you now. Look at me. I'm hot. I've got options. What do you have? A dad bod and a coding job? I have self-respect, I said. And apparently that's more than you've got right now. That made her mad. Started screaming about how I was trying to control her, how I was just insecure because she was finally confident and successful. Successful? I laughed. You're taking half-naked pics in our guest bathroom and calling it success? That's what you think you're worth? At least I'm doing something with my life, she yelled. While you're stuck in the same boring routine, I'm building something. I've got followers. I've got fans. You've got guys paying $5 to see your bathroom selfies. That's not success, Amy. That's sad. She threw her protein shake at me. Missed, but made a huge mess on the wall. Get out, I said. Pack your stuff and get out. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. The mortgage is in my name. You wanted to wait until after the wedding to add your name, remember? Guess that worked out pretty well for me. She started crying again, but I wasn't buying it anymore. Seeing too many of her fake tears in those screenshots Sarah showed me. You can't do this to me, she sobbed. Where am I supposed to go? Maybe ask one of your subscribers? Or hey, maybe Jen has a spare room? Since she's so invested in your success and all, spent the next 2 hours watching her pack while messaging someone on her phone. Probably Jen. Kept giving me these little looks like she expected me to change my mind. Finally, when she was at the door with her bags, she tried one last time. You're making a huge mistake. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. No, I said. The best thing that ever happened to me was Sarah showing me those screenshots. Get out, called a locksmith as soon as she left, then sat down and cried for like an hour straight. 9 years of my life just gone. Sarah kept texting to check on me. She was really worried about how I was handling everything. With Amy out of my sight, I had to deal with all the wedding stuff. We'd already put deposits down on a venue, caterer, all that. Lost some money, but honestly, worth every penny to not go through with it. Calling her parents was rough. Her mom picked up, and I just said, hey, there's not going to be a wedding. Amy's been living a double life. Told them about the OnlyFans stuff. Her mom started crying. Her dad got on the phone and actually apologized to me. Said they'd noticed Amy changing but didn't want to say anything. Then things got really messy. Amy found out Sarah was the one who told me everything. She showed up at Sarah's apartment completely crazy. Sarah texted me about it later. Amy just came here screaming. Said I ruined her life. She tried to hit me, but I closed the door. She's still outside yelling. I called Sarah right away to check if she was okay. Could hear Amy in the background. You stupid fat bitch! You ruined everything! I had it all planned out. Sarah was pretty shaken up. Told me Amy was saying all this stuff about how her plan was to keep me around until she got more followers and could secure a better guy. Real nice, right? Their parents had to come over to deal with Amy. Their mom was crying, dad was yelling. Whole scene. Sarah recorded some of it on her phone just in case Amy tried anything crazy. Amy was screaming at everyone. You're all just jealous. Sarah's jealous because she's fat and ugly. Mom's jealous because she's old. And dad's just mad because his perfect little girl isn't so perfect anymore. Then she started telling them how much money she was making on off. Her dad looked like he was going to be sick. Her mom just kept saying, where did we go wrong? Sarah stayed on the phone with me through most of it. We were both just like, watching this person, we thought we knew completely lose it. Got a bunch of nasty texts from Amy after. Hope you're happy with my fat sister. You'll regret this when I'm famous. Jen says you're just intimidated by strong women. Have fun being poor and ugly. Like, what happened to the girl I fell in love with? I called the venue and caterers the next day. The venue lady was actually super nice when I explained, not everything, Just said my fiance was unfaithful. She managed to get half our deposit back. Figured that was the end of it, but nope. Amy had other plans. She actually tried to claim the refund for herself. Called the venue pretending we were still together. Said she was the bride-to-be and demanded the money be sent to her instead. Luckily, the venue already had my lawyer's info and shut that down fast. Decided to use that money to hire a lawyer. Wanted to make sure Amy couldn't try to claim any part of the house or my savings. Good thing I did. Turns out she'd also been telling people I owed her for all the time and effort she put into planning the wedding. Even tried saying I should reimburse her for her dress. Yeah, the dress she picked out and put on a payment plan with my credit card. Had to call the shop myself to block her from making any more charges. Sarah's been amazing through all this. Helped me cancel all the other wedding stuff, talk to guests, everything. Her parents keep thanking me for not blaming the whole family for Amy's choices. Amy tried coming by the house a few times. Just sat in her car outside like a creep. Called the cops once when she wouldn't leave. They talked to her, and she finally drove off. But something tells me this isn't the last time she'll try pulling something. A couple of weeks after everything went down, I found out through mutual friends that Amy's life isn't going so great. That whole influencer thing she was trying to build? Yeah, not working out. Turns out there's like 1 million fitness accounts out there, and most of them aren't trying to scam their followers. And Jen, that trainer who got Amy into all this? Well, she kicked Amy out after 2 weeks. Sarah heard from their cousin that Jen and Amy had this huge fight. Apparently, Amy wasn't bringing in enough money from her OF account, and Jen said she was bad for business. Real nice friend there, huh? Amy's been couch surfing since then. None of her new gym friends wanted to help her out long term. Weird how that works? All those people who were hyping her up about being too good for me suddenly don't want to deal with her. She tried moving back in with her parents, but that lasted like 3 days. Her dad couldn't even look at her after seeing the OF stuff. Her mom tried to get her to see a therapist, but Amy just screamed about how nobody understands her vision and left. Got some texts from her last week. I miss you. I made a mistake. Can we talk? Please answer me. I've changed. Didn't respond to any of them. Then she sent this long paragraph. I know I messed up. Nothing's working out like Jen said it would. I've lost all my real friends. My family hates me. I'm sleeping on some girl from the gym's couch. I miss our house. I miss our life. I miss you making me breakfast and watching stupid movies with me. Please just talk to me. I didn't flinch. It was like I lost all my feelings. I was dead cold. Sarah showed me Amy's social media. All those inspiring fitness posts are gone. Now it's just sad quotes about regret and making mistakes. She's lost most of her followers too. Turns out people can tell when someone's being fake. Amy's also been trying to find a real job, but it's not going well. Apparently, when you post certain kinds of content online, it makes job hunting pretty hard. Who knew? Everyone. Everyone knew. One of her gym friends, well, ex-friend now, messaged me last week. Hey, just so you know, Amy's been telling everyone you abused her and forced her to start an OF account. Nobody believes her, though. We all saw how she acted. Sorry you went through that, man. Like, what? I literally didn't even know about the account until Sarah told me. But Amy's so desperate to make herself the victim she's just making stuff up now. She actually showed up at my work after those apologies she sent. Just stood in the parking lot until security made her leave. My coworkers were super confused. Had to explain the whole thing to my boss in case she tries coming back. Sarah says Amy started texting their mom at 3 a.m., crying about how she threw away the only good thing in her life. Their mom's heartbroken, but also like, yeah, you did. Too little, too late though. Can't unring that bell. But through all this mess, Sarah and I started hanging out more. At first, it was just talking about the Amy situation, helping each other deal with all that drama. Then we started getting coffee regularly, then dinner, then movies. Months passed, and what started as just mutual support slowly turned into something else. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people who'd been through hell together, figuring out what life looked like on the other side. Sarah's nothing like Amy. She's real, you know? No fake social media personality, no constant selfies, no trying to impress anyone. She laughs at my dumb jokes, actually wants to hear about my work, and doesn't care that I'm not some Instagram perfect guy. First time I realized I was feeling something more than friendship was when we were just sitting on my couch watching some terrible Netflix show. Sarah was making fun of the bad acting, and I looked over at her and just thought, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. We talked about it for weeks before anything happened. Both of us were worried about making things weird, about what people would say. Had a lot of long conversations about whether this was okay or if we were just trauma bonding or whatever. Finally, Sarah was like, look, Amy's gonna hate us no matter what we do. We might as well be happy. She was right. When Amy found out we were dating through their cousin's Instagram, she completely lost it. Started texting everyone in the family about how we were secretly together the whole time, and how we planned this from the beginning. Sarah's parents actually defended us. Her dad told Amy, maybe if you hadn't treated them both so badly, this wouldn't have happened. Amy blocked them all after that. It's been 6 months now. Sarah moved in last month, took it slow, did it right. She actually helps with the housework, unlike Amy, who just took pictures of herself doing it for Instagram. We cook together, go hiking on weekends, normal stuff. Amy still tries to cause drama sometimes. She made this whole Instagram post about how some people will betray you in the worst ways, with a bunch of snake emoji. Sarah just laughed and was like, guess she finally looked in a mirror. She tried messaging me one last time. I hope you're happy with my leftover sister. Just remember, she'll never be as hot as me. You downgraded, and everyone knows it. Sarah saw the message and just said, wow, she really thinks being a decent human being is downgrading, huh? That's what I love about Sarah. She doesn't let this stuff get to her. She's confident in who she is without needing thousands of followers to validate her. We're planning a camping trip next month. Just us, some tents, no phones, no social media. Real life, you know? Sometimes I think about how weird it is that Amy's betrayal led me to someone so much better. Sarah says maybe we needed Amy to show us what we didn't want in life so we could appreciate what we do want. So yeah, that's my story. It feels good to finally have the whole thing written out. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. You guys helped me get through some really rough days. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards and kind messages. And yeah, Sarah reads Reddit too. She's laughing at all your comments about her being the good sister. Final edit. To everyone asking, yes, we're really happy together. Sometimes the best things in life come from the worst. Story 2. This story is titled, My Brother Knocked Up My Fiancé, and My Dad Gave Him the Family Business and a House, so I made them pay for it the hard way. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay guys, this is going to be a long one, but I need to get this off my chest. The stuff that's happened in my family recently is seriously messed up, but to understand why it hit me so hard, you gotta know the background first. I, 33 male, grew up with my younger brother Alex, 30 male, in what looked like a normal family from the outside. But man, the dynamics in our house were seriously twisted. See, Alex was this miracle baby. Mom had a really rough pregnancy with him, and he was super sick for his first couple years. Like, in and out of hospital sick. Breathing problems, infections, the whole deal. I remember sitting in hospital waiting rooms a lot when I was a kid. I get it. Having a sick kid is scary. But even after Alex got better, my parents, especially my dad, kept treating him like he was made of glass. Meanwhile, I was expected to be this perfect, responsible older brother who should know better about everything. Alex could skip school. He needs his rest. Alex failed a class. He's been through so much. Alex broke something expensive. Don't be mad at your brother. But me? I had to get perfect grades, never talk back, help around the house, and basically act like a mini adult from age 7. The double standards were insane. Like, I remember this one time in high school, I got detention for being late to class one time and was grounded for a week. That same month, Alex got caught skipping school to hang with his friends at the mall, and my parents just had a talk with him about it. I started working with my dad in his electrical business when I was 15. Not because I was super passionate about being an electrician back then, but because it was the only way to get any real attention or approval from him. And you know what? I actually got good at it. Really good. Started learning everything I could about electrical work, staying late to watch Dad do the complicated stuff, reading manuals and watching YouTube videos to learn more. Meanwhile, Alex was, well, Alex. Smart kid when he wanted to be, but zero work ethic. Could charm anyone with his poor little sick kid routine that he never grew out of. He tried college for like 2 semesters, dropped out because it was too stressful. Started some online business selling dropship junk that failed. Then tried to be a day trader and lost a bunch of Dad's money. But somehow, I was still the one getting lectures about supporting your brother and family comes first. I'm not gonna lie, it created this weird mix of resentment and responsibility in me. Like, I loved my brother because he's my brother, but I also couldn't stand being around him most of the time. We were total opposites. I was the serious, hardworking one who valued keeping my word and doing things right. He was the fun one who never faced consequences and thought rules were for other people. Dad's business was solid. Basic residential electrical work, some light commercial stuff. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. I saw the potential in it, though. When I wasn't on jobs, I was learning about new technology, smart home systems, security installations. Dad was old school, liked doing things the way he'd always done them. But I kept pushing to modernize, take on bigger projects. The crazy thing is, even when I brought in new clients or finished big jobs perfectly, Dad would find some way to give Alex credit. Your brother's charm really helps with customer relations. He answered phones sometimes. Alex has such good ideas for the business. He suggested we get a website in 2020. I moved out as soon as I could afford it, got my own place about 20 minutes from my parents. Close enough to help with the business, far enough to have some space. Thought I was doing pretty good, you know. Had my own apartment, was making decent money, learning new skills, was even thinking about getting my master electrician license and maybe starting my own business someday. I met this girl I'll call Sophie, 29 female, about 6 years ago, on this big rewiring job we had at these luxury apartments downtown. She was the property manager there. First time I saw her, she was arguing with some HVAC guys about their shoddy work, like really getting into the technical details of why their installation wasn't up to code. I remember thinking, damn, she actually knows her stuff. Most property managers I dealt with just wanted things done cheap and fast. But Sophie was different. She'd actually read through all the electrical codes, knew exactly what she wanted done. First couple weeks on the job, she kept coming around to check our work. Not in an annoying way, she was genuinely interested in understanding what we were doing and why. I started taking my lunch breaks when I knew she'd be doing her rounds. We'd talk about the project at first, then about other things. She told me about growing up with her dad, who was a general contractor, how she learned all about construction from helping him on jobs. I told her about wanting to modernize my dad's business, maybe expand it to more commercial work. She was easy to talk to, you know? Like I could rant about dealing with my family drama and she actually got it. Her brother was the favorite kid too, some hotshot lawyer type who could do no wrong. We'd joke about starting a support group for the responsible siblings. After we finished the apartment job, I figured that was it. But about a week later, she called the office about some urgent electrical issue in her personal apartment. Dad sent me to check it out. Turns out there wasn't actually anything wrong. She just wanted to see me again. Pretty smooth move, I gotta admit. We started dating after that. Sophie was different from other girls I'd dated. She didn't play games or expect me to read her mind. If something was bothering her, she'd just say it. If she was happy, you knew it. Plus, she actually cared about my work, would help me study for my licensing exams, even started helping out with the business side of things. Within a year, she was basically running our office. Set up this whole new scheduling system, modernized our invoicing, created proper contracts instead of the handwritten quotes we used to do. Dad wasn't too happy about it at first, likes doing everything on paper, but even he had to admit the business was running smoother. I finally felt like I was building something real, you know? We moved in together after 2 years. Started talking about marriage, maybe having kids someday. Sophie would joke about our future kids being electricians too, carrying on the family business. Man, I really thought I had it all figured out. The funny thing is, my family actually liked her at first. Mom was always inviting us over for dinner, asking Sophie for help with computer stuff or getting her opinion on home improvements. Even Dad warmed up to her once he saw how much she was helping the business grow. We were landing bigger contracts, getting more commercial work, building a real reputation in the area. Sophie got along great with Alex too. She'd defend him sometimes when I'd get frustrated about his latest failed scheme. Said I should try to understand his perspective more, how growing up sick might have affected him. Looking back now, I should have seen that as a red flag. But you know how it is when you trust someone completely. You don't want to see the signs. We got engaged after 4 years together. Nothing fancy, I proposed at home after we finished this huge project we'd been working on together. She'd been helping me plan this major electrical upgrade for a local hospital, stayed up late with me going over plans, dealing with contractors. It felt right, you know? Like we were really partners in everything. About a year ago, that's when things started changing. Alex had burned through another chunk of Dad's money trying to start some crypto trading business. Came back home broke. Again. And Dad gave him a job in our office. Just basic stuff. Answering phones, filing paperwork, scheduling appointments. Should have been simple enough, but of course Alex found ways to mess it up. Sophie started spending more time at my parents' house, helping Mom with wedding planning and stuff. Said it was easier to work on the business paperwork there too since Alex was learning the systems. I was busy with jobs most days, so it made sense at the time. After that, things started getting really messed up. About 8 months before everything blew up, I started noticing small changes. Nothing huge at first, just little things that didn't add up. Sophie was spending more time at my parents' house, helping with the business stuff. Said she was training Alex on our new invoice system and helping Mom with wedding plans. Made sense, right? I was out on jobs most days, working my ass off to save up for our future. We were planning this whole wedding, talking about buying a house. I wanted to do things right, but then other stuff started happening. Sophie changed her phone password. Never really hit her phone before. We both knew each other's passwords, no big deal. But suddenly she got weird about it. Said her banking app needed her to update security or something. Whatever. I trusted her completely, so I didn't think much about it. Then Alex started acting different too. Started wearing cologne to work. Dude used to show up in yesterday's clothes half the time. Got all these new clothes. Started actually showing up to work on time, which was weird for him. He was being weirdly nice to me too, offering to stay late at the office, saying he really wanted to learn the business. I noticed Sophie talking about him differently. Alex is really getting good at handling the scheduling, or your brother's actually pretty smart when he applies himself. She'd get kind of defensive if I complained about him messing something up. Even started taking his side in family arguments. The office vibe got weird too. Our receptionist, Janet, been with us 15 years, she's like a second mom, started giving me these looks when Sophie and Alex would be working late together. But whenever I'd ask what was up, she'd just say nothing and change the subject. One time I came back to the office early from a job because we ran out of materials. Sophie and Alex were in the break room laughing about something. Nothing obviously wrong, but they both jumped like they were caught doing something when I walked in. Sophie said they were just going over some invoices. At 7 p.m. Right. Started noticing Sophie didn't talk about our future as much. Used to be all excited about wedding plans, looking at houses online, talking about what kind of family we'd have. But she got quiet about all that. Said she was just stressed about work. The real red flag I ignored is that she stopped coming to job sites to check on projects. Used to be our thing. She'd bring lunch, we'd go over plans, figure out solutions to problems together. But suddenly she was too busy at the office. With Alex. About 6 months ago, we had this big family dinner. Sophie was acting weird all night. Barely talking, checking her phone a lot. Alex kept trying to make these inside jokes with her. Like this one time he said something about that crazy guy at the office, and Sophie actually snorted laughing. But when I asked what was funny, they both just said, "You had to be there." After dinner, in the car ride home, I finally brought it up. "You okay? You seemed off tonight." Sophie kept staring at her phone. "Just tired. Work's been crazy." "Yeah, seems like you and Alex are getting along better these days." She kind of tensed up but tried playing it casual. "He's not as bad as you always say. He's actually pretty funny when you get to know him. Funny enough to make you ignore everyone else at dinner." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just, you've been different lately. Distant. Always on your phone." She got defensive real quick. "Oh, so I'm not allowed to have my own conversations now? Everything has to be about you." That caught me off guard. Sophie never talked to me like that before. "That's not what I said. Just feels like something's changed. Maybe you're just paranoid. I'm tired of you always complaining about Alex. He's trying his best." I remember getting this sick feeling in my gut. Like something was really wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. She'd never defended Alex like that before. "Since when are you Team Alex?" "Since I actually got to know him instead of just listening to you bash him all the time." We drove the rest of the way in silence. Man, all the signs were there. The defensive attitude, the phone, the inside jokes, the way she suddenly thought Alex was so great. But you never want to believe someone you trust completely could do that to you. Especially not with your own brother. I remember lying there that night, watching her pretend to sleep, thinking, nah, I'm just being paranoid. The next couple months were just more of the same. Sophie working late, Alex suddenly interested in the business. Me, being a complete idiot, working 12-hour days trying to save up for our future, while my brother was stealing my girl right under my nose. Then came the day, everything exploded. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I was on this big commercial job, rewiring this warehouse. Sophie called around 2 p.m., crying so hard I could barely understand her. Said she needed to talk to me in person. It was urgent. My first thought was something happened to her parents or something. Told my crew I had a family emergency and drove straight home. Found her sitting in her car in our driveway. She wouldn't come inside. Just sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her together. I got in the passenger seat, waiting for her to say something. "I'm pregnant," she said. For a few seconds, I felt nothing but happiness. We'd talked about starting a family after the wedding, and now it was happening. I started going on about how we'd figure it out, how we could move the wedding up if we needed to. She just kept crying. "There's more," she choked out. It might not be yours." Everything inside me went still. My brain refused to process it at first, like I had to run it through a second time to make sure I heard her right. Might not be mine? My voice sounded weird, like it wasn't even mine. Who else's would it? I stopped. It clicked all at once. The late nights. The sudden secrecy with her phone. The weird tension whenever I brought up. No. I stared at her, waiting for her to deny it, to tell me I was wrong. She didn't. Tell me it's not him. Her breath hitched. My hands curled into fists. Sophie! My voice was sharp now, demanding. Tell me it's not Alex. She made this broken sound in her throat. It wasn't supposed to happen. I let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. Oh, right. You just tripped and fell into my brother's bed? It wasn't like that, she said quickly. It was one time. I cut her off. One time, my head was pounding. Tell me the truth. Nothing but silence. How long? Her breath was uneven. 3 months, maybe 4. I had to press my hands to my knees to steady myself. Does he know? My voice was tight, controlled. She nodded. I told him yesterday. That's when I realized I had to tell you too. I stared at her. Like she expected me to be grateful, she finally decided to come clean. I got out of the car. Needed air. She followed me, trying to explain how it wasn't planned, how guilty they both felt, how they'd ended it weeks ago. All I could think about was them laughing in the break room. All those times they were working late. Were you ever going to tell me if you weren't pregnant? She didn't answer. That told me everything I needed to know. Got in my truck and drove straight to my parents' house. Found Alex in the office doing fuck all like usual. Soon as he saw my face, he knew I knew. Listen, bro, I can explain. I don't really remember what happened next. It's all kind of a blur. But I do remember him on the ground, blood coming from his nose, Dad and 2 of our employees pulling me off him. Alex started yelling about how I was crazy, how Sophie came onto him first, how they were in love. In love. My own brother. The guy who'd watched me plan my future with this woman, who'd sat there at Sunday dinners knowing what he was doing. Dad got between us, tried to calm everyone down, said we needed to handle this like adults. That's when Alex dropped the next bomb. She's having my baby. You can't just ignore that. Dad's face went white. Guess he didn't know about that part yet. Mom started crying. Janet grabbed her purse and walked out. Found out later she quit that day, said she couldn't work for people who do something like this. I looked at my dad and said, "He's your problem now. I'm done." Dad tried to stop me. "Son, wait. We can figure this out. Family is family." I told him Alex stopped being my family the second he touched my fiancée. Walked out and haven't been back since. Sophie was still at our place when I got home. She'd packed some bags, was sitting on the couch crying. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "It just got complicated." Told her she had 24 hours to get her stuff and get out. Didn't care where she went. Block my number, lose my address. "What about the baby?" she asked. "Better hope it's Alex's, because if it's mine, we're doing a DNA test and going through lawyers." She tried to say more, but I just walked out. Drove to my buddy Mike's place and crashed there for a few days while she moved out. So after everything went down, I stayed at my buddy Mike's place for about a week, turned my phone off, just needed to process everything. Mike's a real one. Didn't try to give advice or anything, just let me crash. When I finally turned my phone back on, had like 50 missed calls. Most from my parents, some from Sophie, even a few from Alex. The nerve of this guy. But I only listened to the ones from Mom. She was crying in most of them, begging me to come talk to Dad, saying he had a solution. Should have known Dad's solution would be some manipulative BS. But I went anyway, mostly because Mom sounded so upset. Walking into that house was weird. I found everyone in the living room. Mom looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dad was in his usual spot in his recliner, looking all serious like when he's about to give one of his lectures. Alex was there too, sporting a nice bruised nose. Not gonna lie, that felt good to see. Dad cleared his throat and hit me with this gem. "Son, I've been thinking about how to resolve this situation in a way that benefits everyone. Already knew this was gonna be bad. Since you're clearly not willing to work things out with Sophie, and given her condition, I think it makes sense for her and Alex to get married." I actually laughed, like full-on laughed in his face. But he wasn't done. Furthermore, since they'll be starting a family, I think it's appropriate for Alex to take over the business. With Sophie's experience running the office and Alex learning the trade, they could— Alex learning the trade? I cut him off. He can't even wire a fucking outlet without supervision. Dad got that look he always gets when someone interrupts him. Language. And your brother has shown real interest in learning. In fact, I want you to train him. Guys, I lost it. Started laughing again, but like that crazy laugh you do when something's so messed up you can't even process it. "Let me get this straight," I said. You want me to train the brother who screwed my fiancée to take over the business I helped build? While they're married and raising a kid that might be mine? Are you actually insane? Mom started crying again. Alex just sat there staring at the floor like a coward. Dad pulled out his final card. This business is still in my name. If you won't help your brother, maybe you should find somewhere else to work. That's when I knew. All those years of work meant nothing. All that time I put in, the clients I brought in, the reputation I built, meant nothing compared to precious Alex's latest screw-up. I just got up, walked to the door. Mom tried to stop me, but I just said, "I'm done. Good luck with your new golden team." Alex finally spoke up. "Bro, wait." Turned around and just said, "Call me bro again and I'll break more than your fucking nose." Dad yelled after me about family loyalty and second chances. Didn't even look back. Next day, I started calling all our major clients, ones I had personal relationships with, told them I was leaving, suggested some other good contractors they could work with. Dad called screaming about how I was trying to sabotage the business. Told him I was just letting my clients know I wouldn't be handling their jobs anymore. Not my fault if they didn't want to work with his new dream team. Alex and Sophie actually agreed to this whole thing. Got married at the courthouse 2 weeks later, like it was some kind of love story instead of a complete betrayal. Dad even backed them up, gave them a down payment for a house, like rewarding them for what they did. Meanwhile, I was left standing in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. No apology, no real consequences. Just me being expected to move on while they played happy family. So I did. Walked away from all of it. Took a job with one of our old competitors. A place that actually valued my work instead of treating me like an afterthought. Better pay, real appreciation, and best of all, zero family drama. Put everything into starting fresh, building my own reputation. Even got my master electrician license. Something Dad always said I wasn't ready for. Turns out I was more than ready. Just needed to get out from under his shadow to prove it. I didn't hear much about what was happening with the family business for about 4 months. Mom would text sometimes, but I asked her not to tell me about Alex or Sophie. Didn't need that stress in my life. Then last week got this call from Mom at like 11 p.m. She was crying, again, saying Dad needed to talk to me urgently. Almost hung up, but she sounded really messed up. "Please," she said. "I know you have every right to say no, but we're about to lose everything." I was actually curious, and I stayed on the line. Dad got on, and man, his voice was different. Not the usual "I know everything" tone. Guy sounded broken. Turns out letting Alex run the business was exactly the disaster I predicted. This genius managed to screw up 3 major commercial jobs so badly that one client is threatening to sue us over code violations. I'm talking about basic stuff. Wrong gauge wiring, missing ground wires, junction boxes installed without covers. The kind of mistakes that could literally burn a building down. And it gets better. Instead of hiring actual qualified electricians, he brought in his drinking buddy from college as head electrician. The guy's whole electrical experience was changing light bulbs in his apartment. No license, no certifications, probably couldn't tell a voltage tester from a screwdriver. Real professional operation they're running there. Then there's the money side. Alex apparently forgot to pay their liability insurance in an electrical business. Let that sink in. One accident, one fire, and they'd lose everything. But hey, why waste money on silly things like insurance when you can pocket the cash instead? Because that's exactly what he was doing, taking cash payments from customers and conveniently forgetting to put them in the books. And the financial genius had been taking out loans against the business without telling Dad. Multiple loans. We're talking serious money here. And the best part? Nobody can figure out where all that cash went. Not in his bank account, not invested anywhere, just gone. Like magic. Though I'm betting his new car and those designer clothes he's been wearing might be a clue. It's almost impressive how thoroughly he managed to wreck everything in just a few months. Took Dad 30 years to build this business, and Alex practically burned it to the ground in less than half a year. Guess that's what happens when you hand over a successful company to someone whose biggest achievement was making beer pong team captain in college. Dad finally found out when their insurance got canceled, and he started digging into the books. Alex had been hiding all the problems by messing with the paperwork, something he learned from Sophie during all those late nights at the office. Most of their experienced guys quit. Can't blame them. Alex was treating them like crap, and checks started bouncing. Janet, our old receptionist, apparently tried warning Dad months ago about weird stuff in the accounts, but he wouldn't listen. Dad's voice was shaking when he told me all this. Then hit me with, "Son, I need you to come back. Help me fix this. We can make you majority owner, give you full control." Told him I needed to think about it. He started getting desperate. Please, we're going to lose everything. The business, the house, everything I built. Your mother, she's not handling this well. Then he played his final card. Alex and Sophie split up. She left last week, just disappeared, left a note saying not to contact her. The baby, we don't even know where she is. Guess Alex wasn't daddy material after all. My response? Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. Dad started with his usual guilt trip about family and loyalty. Cut him off. Remember when I begged you not to give the business to Alex? When I told you he'd run it into the ground? What was it you said? Oh yeah, family is family. Well, this is your family's mess now. Mom got back on the phone crying about how they might be homeless soon. That hit hard. Mom doesn't deserve any of this. She's the only one who ever tried to keep the family together. The only one who didn't pick a side. Even when maybe she should have. Told her she could come stay with me anytime. Just her, though. Not Dad. Not Alex. I can't leave your father, she said. I sighed. Then that's your choice, Mom. But my door's only open for you. It sucked, knowing she'd never walk through it. A couple of days later, I got a text from Sophie. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need help. The baby's yours. I got the test results. Alex took all my money and disappeared. Please, I don't have anywhere else to go. I read it, stared at it, put my phone down, didn't respond. Not gonna. But damn if it didn't sit there like a brick in my gut, like a punch I saw coming, but still didn't know how to take. It should have meant something. It should have been life-changing. But all I felt was exhaustion. Like I'd finally crawled out of this mess, only for it to reach back and try to pull me under again. And for the first time, I wasn't sure what to do. As I was trying to wrap my head around the fucked up mess, Dad showed up at my apartment last night. No warning, just standing there when I got home from work. Looking rough, wearing this old jacket I remember from when I was a kid, hadn't shaved in what looked like weeks. First thing I noticed was he was driving Mom's old Civic instead of his truck. Found out later they had to sell his truck to pay some of the business debts. Can we talk? He asked. Not demanding like usual. Actually sounded tired. I let him in because honestly, wanted him to see how I was doing without his help. My new place is pretty sweet. Got it after my last promotion. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Earned it myself. He stood in my living room looking lost, like he didn't know how to talk to me without giving orders. Finally sat down and just started spilling everything. The business is basically dead. They're facing lawsuits from 2 commercial clients over Alex's garbage work. Most of their residential customers jumped ship after word got around about jobs being left half-finished. Bank's coming for the house next month. I should have listened to you, he said. First time I've ever heard him admit being wrong about anything. Told him that was nice to hear, but kind of late. Then, he pulled out this folder. Inside was paperwork to sign the business over to me. 100% ownership. No strings attached. You can save it, he said. You always knew what you were doing. I was just too proud to see it. Know what's crazy? 6 months ago, this would have been everything I wanted. All that validation, finally being given control, Dad admitting I was right, but sitting there looking at those papers. What happened to Alex? I asked. Dad's face just crumpled. Said Alex cleared out their savings account last week and disappeared. Left this note about needing to find himself or some BS. Classic Alex. Creates a disaster, then runs away from the consequences. He's still your brother, Dad said quietly. Number. He stopped being my brother the day he decided family loyalty meant nothing to him. Sound familiar? That hit him hard. Good. Started telling me how he could help me rebuild the business, how we could work together, be a real family again. Had to laugh. Dad, you're not hearing me. I don't want the business. I don't want your help. I'm done. But this is your legacy too. Everything we built. Everything I built, you gave to Alex. Remember? You chose him even after he slept with my fiancée. Now you get to live with that choice. He tried guilt-tripping me about Mom again. How she's heartbroken about the family falling apart. Told him same thing as before. She's welcome here anytime. Just her. She won't leave me, he said. Then that's her choice. And living with the consequences of your actions? That's yours. He sat there for a long time. Finally asked, real quiet. Where did I go wrong? Wanted to lay it all out. All the years of favoritism, the constant excuses for Alex, how he threw away someone who actually cared about the business, for someone who saw it as a piggy bank to raid. But what's the point? You didn't go wrong, Dad. You got exactly what you always wanted. Alex being in charge. How's that working out? He left soon after. Looked about 20 years older walking out than when he walked in. Got a text from Mom this morning. They're moving in with her sister in Ohio next month. Dad's gonna try finding work there. She asked one more time if I'd reconsider helping them stay here. Told her my offer stands. She can stay with me anytime she wants. But I'm done setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. Sophie still messages sometimes about the baby. I told her to have her lawyer contact mine. Haven't heard from Alex. Don't expect to. You know what's weird? I thought watching them lose everything would feel good. Like karma hitting them back for what they did to me. But honestly, I just feel nothing. Not happy, not sad. Just done. I started dating someone new last month. Taking it slow. She asked about my family and I just said we're not close. Maybe someday I'll tell her the whole story. But for now, I'm focused on building my own life. No drama, no toxic family BS, no trying to earn approval that never comes. I told Sophie everything goes through the lawyers from now on. Will I be there for my kid? Yeah, I'm not my brother. I don't abandon my responsibilities. But Sophie burned that bridge to ashes. We'll figure out custody and support through the courts. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with them just like everyone else in this mess. For now, I'm just trying to keep my head straight. Focus on work, my new relationship, building something that's just mine. Some nights I lie awake thinking about how messed up it is that my kid's gonna be born into all this drama. But you can't fix other people's mistakes. You can only try to do right by your own conscience. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Edit. This is the last part, guys. Thanks for following along. Writing it all out actually helped sort through some stuff in my head. Edit 2. Since people keep asking, yes, if Sophie can prove the baby exists and is mine, I'll step up. But only through legal channels. No direct contact. Story 3. This story is titled, My Fiancé Accused Me of Cheating, and Her Dad and Brothers Physically Attacked Me. Now the truth is out and they want reconciliation. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Alright, so this might get a little long, but I need to get it all out. I'm 28, just a regular dude with a stable office job, a decent apartment, and what I thought was a pretty straightforward life. About a year ago, I met the woman I thought I'd spend forever with. Let's call her Emma, 26 female. She was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I could take on the world. We dated for a little over a year before I proposed. Nothing fancy, just something private between the two of us. She said yes, and honestly, I thought I'd won in life. A few weeks later, we had an engagement party at her parents' place. It wasn't anything flashy, just family and close friends, and I thought everything was perfect. Looking back, though, I realized there were warning signs. Small things that didn't seem like a big deal at the time. Her mom, for one, had this weird way of talking to me. She'd say stuff like, "Oh, it's so nice you're stable. Emma needs someone she can rely on." Or, "You're such a hard worker. It must be tough not having family connections to lean on." At first, I thought it was just her being awkward, but now I see it for what it was. Judgment. Her dad was a little easier to deal with. He seemed chill on the surface, but it was clear he deferred to her mom on pretty much everything. Then there were her brothers. They were younger than her, and had this overprotective big brother energy that didn't quite make sense given their age. It was like they thought I was stealing their precious sister away. But I didn't let any of it bother me. I loved Emma, and I figured the family stuff would work itself out eventually. I mean, once we were married, they'd have to accept me, right? That's just how these things work. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Fast forward about 8 months into our engagement, and things started to get weird. It wasn't anything huge at first, just little things. Emma started acting more guarded, like she didn't trust me as much. She'd ask questions that felt off. Who did you have lunch with today? Or, why didn't you text me back during your break? I chalked it up to wedding stress. People get anxious when planning a big life event, and I thought that's all it was. But then, one random Saturday afternoon, she came into my apartment looking like she'd been rehearsing an argument all day. She had her phone in her hand, and the second she saw me, she said, "We need to talk." Great. The 4 scariest words in any relationship. Forget "I love you" or "will you marry me." This is the one that sends chills down your spine every time. I don't know about you, but those 4 words never mean something good. I put my phone down and said, "All right, what's up?" Instead of answering, she shoved her phone in my face. On the screen were these blurry, low-quality photos of me leaving a restaurant with a woman. I blinked at the screen, trying to figure out if I was supposed to recognize myself in the grainy, Bigfoot-level photos. Honestly, I've seen better resolution on memes. "That's Sarah," I said after a second. "She's a coworker. We grabbed lunch last week. What about it?" Emma folded her arms and stared at me like I'd just confessed to murder. "What about it?" she repeated sarcastically. "How about the fact that you didn't tell me about it?" or that you're sneaking around with another woman behind my back. Her words hit me deep. This was Emma, the woman who used to look at me like I was her whole world, now staring at me like I was some stranger she'd caught in a lie. I couldn't understand how we got here. We'd built our relationship on trust, or at least I thought we had. But now? Now she was acting like everything I'd ever said or done didn't matter. I asked, "Sneaking around? Are you serious right now?" "It was just lunch. We talked about work stuff, that's it." But she wasn't hearing me. "Do you think I'm stupid? I've seen this before. You're just like every other guy who says one thing and does another." At this point, I was starting to get frustrated. How could she believe something like this without even asking me first? It was like all the times I'd been honest, all the ways I'd shown her how much she meant to me, had just vanished from her memory. I said, trying to calm things down, "Emma, I'm telling you the truth. Sarah's a coworker, and we had lunch to discuss the project we're both working on. If you don't believe me, I can show you the emails we exchanged setting it up." Her expression didn't change. If anything, she looked angrier. "Emails? Oh, so now you're covering your tracks with emails? Unbelievable." I felt like I was in a trash movie. No matter what I said, she was stuck in her own version of the story, and I was the villain. "Emma, listen to me," I said, trying to stay calm. "There's nothing going on between me and Sarah. I love you. I wouldn't cheat on you. Why don't you trust me?" She let out this weird, bitter laugh that didn't even sound like her. "Why don't I trust you? Maybe because you've been lying to my face this whole time." "Lying? Are you serious right now?" I shot back. "When have I ever lied to you? You know me better than this. What's going on with you?" She gave me this cold, dead stare. "Do I, though? Because right now, I don't even know who you are." That one stung, not gonna lie. I tried to keep my cool, though. "Come on, Emma, think for a second. When have I ever given you a reason not to trust me? You see some crappy photos and suddenly I'm a liar? Why wouldn't you just ask me first? You know I'd tell you the truth." She shook her head like I wasn't even worth the effort. "Why should I? I saw the pictures. That's all I need to know." "Seriously? You're gonna hang everything on some blurry-ass pictures? You didn't even stop to ask me what they were about. You're just jumping straight to the worst conclusion, like you've been waiting for an excuse." Her face was so cold, so unrecognizable, that for a moment, I wondered if I'd ever really known her. She wasn't budging. It was like she'd already decided I was guilty the second she walked in the door. Nothing I said was gonna change that. And that's when it started to click for me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't her just being mad about some misunderstanding. This was her straight up thinking I was the worst person alive, like she wanted to believe it. I tried to be gentle. "This isn't like you. What's really going on here? Why are you doing this?" Still nothing. Just that same closed-off look. So I took a shot in the dark. "Let me guess. Your mom's behind this, isn't she? She's been feeding you this garbage, and now you're just running with it." Her jaw tightened. She didn't say a word, but she didn't need to. That look told me everything. "Wow," I muttered, laughing bitterly. "So that's how it is. Your mom shows you a couple of crappy pictures, and suddenly I'm the bad guy? You'd rather believe her than me, after everything we've been through?" She didn't even flinch, just stood there, like she was already done with me. That's when I realized I was wasting my breath. It wasn't just about the pictures. She'd already made up her mind. Someone had been in her ear, but whoever it was, they'd poisoned the well. And as bad as it felt in that moment, I didn't know the half of it. Things were about to get a hell of a lot worse. Now, as I was still sitting there trying to process what had just happened, I heard banging on my front door. Not knocking, banging like someone was trying to break it down. Before I even had a chance to ask who it was, the door flew open and there they were, Emma's dad and her two brothers. They looked furious, and I could tell right away that they weren't here for a peaceful chat. Her dad pointed a finger at me and shouted, "You've been messing with my daughter's heart, you piece of garbage. You think you can just play her like that and get away with it?" For a split second, I thought about running. Not because I was scared, but because I knew there was no reasoning with these people. They weren't here to listen. They were here to punish me for something I didn't even do. And the worst part? Emma was standing right there, watching it happen. I was completely blindsided. "What are you talking about?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is a huge misunderstanding. I didn't cheat on Emma. Those photos are nothing. They're not what you think." One of her brothers stepped forward, cracking his knuckles like he'd been waiting for this moment. I swear, the way he was cracking his knuckles, you'd think he was about to challenge me to a duel or audition for a mob movie. He said, "Oh, so you're saying Emma's lying now? You're gonna call my sister a liar to my face?" I took a step back, holding up my hands. "No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying someone's feeding her false information. I didn't do anything wrong. If you give me 2 minutes, I can prove it." But they weren't interested in proof. They were already convinced I was guilty. Her dad got in my face. You're a liar, piece of trash, plain and simple. Men like you don't deserve women like my daughter. And the first punch landed. It came out of nowhere, hitting me square in the jaw. Before I could even react, the second brother grabbed me by the collar and shoved me against the wall. The lamp on my side table crashed to the ground, and I felt a sharp pain shoot through my shoulder. I caught a glimpse of Emma out of the corner of my eye. She was just standing there, arms crossed, like she was watching a bad reality show. No shock, no attempt to stop them. Nothing. How could she let this happen? How could she let them hurt me and say nothing? I tried to defend myself, but it was 3 thugs against 1. They were yelling, throwing accusations and fists at the same time. It felt like they'd been waiting for this opportunity, like they'd been looking for an excuse to take me down. "Admit it!" one of them shouted. "Admit you've been cheating on her!" "I didn't!" I shouted back, trying to block another punch. "I swear I didn't cheat!" It didn't matter what I said. They weren't there to listen. They were there to punish me. At some point, I ended up on the floor, trying to cover my face as they kicked me. My ribs felt like they were on fire, and my head was spinning. Lying there, I stopped trying to fight back. What was the point? They didn't want the truth. They wanted someone to blame. And as much as I wanted to get up and defend myself, the betrayal of seeing Emma just stand there hurt more than any of the punches they threw. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Her dad stood over me, breathing heavily, while one of the brothers pulled him back. "That's enough," he said. "Let's get out of here before we really hurt him." As they walked toward the door, her dad looked back at me. "If I see you near my daughter again, I won't hold back next time. Consider this a warning." Emma was standing in the doorway looking at me. She didn't look upset or worried. She looked cold, detached, like she didn't care that I was lying there, bruised and bleeding. "The engagement off," she said. "You're lucky they didn't break your bones." And just like that, they were gone. I lay there for a while, trying to catch my breath and process what had just happened. My living room was a mess. Furniture overturned, a broken lamp, blood on the carpet. I tried to get up, but my body felt like it had been hit by a truck. Eventually, I managed to crawl to my phone and call a friend to take me to the hospital. The doctor patched me up, some bruised ribs, a split lip, and a mild concussion. He asked me what happened, and when I told him, he just shook his head. "You should report this," he said. "People like that don't stop unless they face consequences." I didn't know what to do. Every part of me was boiling. My fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to show up at their house and make them feel even a fraction of what they'd put me through. But I forced myself to stay in control, even though the anger was burning through me like fire. Forgetting about it? Letting it go? No way. I'd been pushed around, falsely accused, and treated like I didn't matter for too long. They weren't getting away with this. Not this time. By the time I left the hospital, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. This wasn't just about the fight. It was about respect, about standing up for myself. The next day, I called a lawyer friend and told him everything. He listened carefully, then said, "You need to file a police report, and you need to do it now. The longer you wait, the harder it'll be to prove what they did to you." So I did. I went to the police station, filed the report, and let them take photos of my injuries. The officers were sympathetic, nodding as I explained what had happened. They assured me they'd investigate, but they also warned me that cases like this could take time. I should have felt some sense of relief, but I didn't. I just felt empty. The woman I thought I was going to spend my life with had not only believed a lie about me, but had let her family assault me over it. I didn't know how things would play out, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to back down. They thought they could scare me into silence, but they were wrong. This was just the beginning. About a week later, I got this random call. The number wasn't saved in my phone. On the other end was her uncle. Let's call him Uncle Joe. I barely knew the guy. I'd met him maybe twice at family events, and both times he seemed like the quiet type who stayed out of drama. So when he said, "We need to talk," I was like, okay? We set up a meeting at this diner off the highway. Real middle-of-nowhere vibes. When I got there, he was already sitting in a booth. I slid into the seat across from him, and before I could even say hi, he leaned in and whispered, "You deserve to know the truth." Now, when someone says something like that, you know it's about to get wild. I just nodded and let him talk. Turns out this whole mess wasn't some misunderstanding or a heat-of-the-moment thing. Nope, it was a damn setup. Because why settle for regular family drama when you can crank it up to supervillain levels, right? "Her mom never liked you," Uncle Joe said, glancing around like someone might be eavesdropping. "She's been trying to break you two up for months. She wants Emma to marry this other guy. Family friend, lots of money, big connections." I just stared at him, trying to wrap my head around what he was saying. Wait, So you're telling me her mom, what, framed me? He nodded, looking kind of guilty, like he felt bad for even being related to these people. She hired someone to follow you, take those pictures, and make it look like you were cheating. Then she started spreading rumors, telling Emma you had a double life or some nonsense. You've got to be kidding me, I said, leaning back in the booth. And Emma just bought it? No questions asked? He said that her mom's persuasive, and Emma's always been kinda, let's just say, easy to influence. At this point, I was pissed. Like beyond pissed. It wasn't just that they'd ruined my relationship. They'd trashed my reputation, wrecked my apartment, and left me with actual bruises. Do you have proof of any of this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Uncle Joe nodded and pulled out a USB drive, sliding it across the table. Texts, emails, all of it. Her mom wasn't exactly subtle about what she was doing. I grabbed the drive and thanked him, though I didn't really know what else to say. My head was spinning. As I drove home, I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her mom had planned this whole thing, like actually planned it, and Emma just went along with it. By the time I got back to my place, I was fuming. I plugged the USB into my laptop and started scrolling through the messages. Sure enough, there it all was in black and white. Her mom texted Uncle Joe's wife about hiring a photographer, telling Emma, he's not good enough for you, and even coaching her on how to confront me. It was all there. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and called him up. Dude, you're not gonna believe this, I said. He listened as I explained, then said, this changes everything. We're not just looking at assault charges anymore. This is premeditated. We're talking conspiracy. For the first time in days, I felt like I had some control over the situation. I wasn't just gonna sit back and let these people ruin my life. The next morning, I handed the evidence over to the police. The detective who took my statement raised an eyebrow as he skimmed through the texts. This is pretty damning, he said. We'll be in touch. By now, word had gotten back to Emma's family that I'd filed charges. That's when the call started. Her dad left a voicemail saying we needed to work this out like adults. One of her brothers texted me some half-assed apology about how they might have overreacted. And Emma? She sent this long, rambling text about how she was so confused and didn't know who to believe. Yeah, sure. Now she's confused. Where was all this doubt when her family was rearranging my face? I ignored them all. I wasn't about to let them guilt me into dropping the charges. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. Let's see how they handle it when the law gets involved. But even as I stood my ground, I couldn't shake this nagging feeling of disappointment. Emma had been the one person I thought I could trust. I'd planned to spend my life with her, and now she was just gone. Still, I wasn't about to let that stop me from fighting back. If they thought I was just going to roll over and take this, they had another thing coming. So, after handing over the proof to the cops, I figured things were about to get serious. What I didn't expect was how quickly Emma's family would start freaking out. I mean, these people went from, we're going to ruin your life to, let's be reasonable in record time. First, her dad called me. I didn't even recognize the number at first. But when I picked up, there he was, sounding all nervous. Hey, we might have overreacted, he said, his tone way softer than the last time we'd spoken. Let's talk this through. No need to involve the police? I almost laughed. This was the same guy who was ready to knock my teeth out a week ago, and now he wanted to play nice? Talk to my lawyer, I said, keeping it short and hanging up before he could say anything else. Next came her brother, one of the ones who'd thrown punches. He texted me this long message about how they were just protecting their sister, and things got out of hand. He ended it with, let's settle this like men. Right, because real men ambush people in their own homes. I didn't even bother replying. And then there was Emma. She sent me a text from a different number. And honestly, just seeing her name pop up on my phone made me nauseous. Her message was all over the place. She said she was so sorry that she'd been manipulated and that her mom had convinced her I was cheating. I didn't know what to think, she wrote. Can we please talk? I miss you. Yeah, no, I wasn't falling for that. Where was this doubt when her family was trashing my place and leaving me with bruises? She had plenty of chances to talk to me, to ask for my side of the story, but she didn't. And now that the truth was out, she wanted to act like none of it happened. I left her on red. Meanwhile, my lawyer was loving the new evidence. This isn't just a solid case, he said. It's a slam dunk. They assaulted you based on fabricated evidence. The texts show clear conspiracy, and your injuries back it all up. They're in deep trouble. Hearing that felt good. But it wasn't like this was going to be an instant win. The cops were investigating, and that was going to take time. Still, knowing the law was on my side made it easier to deal with the constant calls and texts from Emma's family. A couple of days later, the first big development hit. My lawyer called to let me know the police had issued warrants for her dad. her brothers, and her mom. They were being charged with assault and conspiracy, and the cops weren't wasting any time. Apparently, when they showed up to arrest her dad and brothers, the two hotheads tried to argue with the officers. "We were defending our family," one of them yelled. The cops weren't buying it. They'd seen the evidence and knew the difference between defending your family and premeditated assault. The best part? Her mom didn't see it coming. She'd been running around acting like she was untouchable, and then, bam, the police showed up at her door. From what I heard, she immediately tried to play the victim. "I was protecting my daughter. I didn't mean for things to go this far." "Yeah, sure. You just accidentally hired someone to frame me and accidentally got your family to assault me in my own home. Totally believable." It was around this time that Emma started getting more desperate. She left me a voicemail, her voice shaky like she'd been crying for hours. "I didn't know," she said. "I swear I didn't know what they were planning. Please, let's talk. I need to explain." But the thing is, there was nothing left to explain. She might not have known her mom set this all up, but she still chose to believe those fake photos over me. She didn't even give me a chance to defend myself before letting her family wreck my life. The way I saw it, if she could turn on me that easily, there was no way I could ever trust her again. So, I deleted the voicemail and blocked her number. By now, her family must have realized how bad things were looking for them, because they tried a new angle: bribery. One of her cousins, who I'd only met once at a Christmas party, showed up at my office parking lot. "Hey man, can we talk?" he said, walking up to me like we were old friends. I stopped and asked, "What do you want?" "They feel awful about what happened," he said, holding his hands up like he was trying to calm me down. "No one wants this to go to court. They're willing to cover your medical bills, maybe throw in a settlement if you'll drop the charges." I just stared at him. "So they think they can pay me off and make this go away?" "Look, I'm just the messenger," he said, shrugging. "No one's saying what they did was okay, but a trial's gonna get messy. For everyone." I shook my head. "Tell them I'm not interested. They can explain themselves in court." The cousin looked like he wanted to argue, but I was done. I got in my car and drove off, leaving him standing there. At this point, I wasn't just fighting for justice, I was fighting for myself. These people thought they could mess with my life, ruin my relationship, and get away with it. They were about to learn how wrong they were. During the few days after they tried to bribe me, Emma kept blowing up my phone again through her friends, texts, emails, calls. I didn't listen to most of them, but one caught my eye. She said something about wanting to meet up and set the record straight. At this point, I was done with her, but my lawyer told me I could meet her as long as I wasn't alone. So I agreed, not to listen to her, but to put an end to this. I brought a friend along to witness everything. We met at a cafe near the courthouse. When she walked in, she looked like a mess. Her eyes were red, and she had this look on her face like she'd just lost everything, which honestly, she kinda had. She sat down across from me and immediately started crying. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't know what they were planning. I thought you cheated. My mom convinced me you were lying to me." I just sat there, letting her talk. She went on about how scared she was of her family, how she felt pressured to believe them, and how she regretted everything. When she finally stopped, I leaned forward and said, "If you loved me, you would have asked for my side. You had a choice, to trust me or to trust them, and you chose them. That's not love." Her tears started flowing harder. "I was confused," she sobbed. "I didn't know what to do." I shook my head. "Confused or not, you let them beat me up in my own home. You stood there enjoying watching it happen. And now you think an apology is enough to fix that?" She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It's too late," I said. "They're facing the consequences for what they did. And so are you. This is over. Don't call me again." I stood up, left her sitting there crying, and walked out with my friend. That was the last time I saw her in person. The trial came not long after that. My lawyer prepared me for everything, and when the day arrived, I was ready. I testified about the assault, how they barged into my apartment, ignored my attempts to explain, and beat me until I was bleeding. The prosecutor presented the text messages, the photos of my injuries, and even the USB drive with all the proof of the conspiracy. The uncle came through too. He testified about everything he'd told me, how her mom had planned the whole thing, how she'd manipulated everyone into believing her lies. It was airtight. The defense tried their best, but their arguments were weak. Her dad and brothers claimed they were defending their family's honor, but the jury didn't buy it. Her mom tried to downplay her role, saying she was just worried about her daughter, but the texts painted a different picture. When the verdict came in, guilty, I didn't feel happy. I didn't even feel relieved. I just felt done, like this whole nightmare was finally over. Her dad and brothers got prison time for aggravated assault, and her mom got time for conspiracy. They'd all have criminal records now, And good luck shaking that off. Emma wasn't charged, but her reputation was wrecked. Everyone in her community knew what happened, and she became the girl who believed lies and ruined everything. After the sentencing, she tried to contact me again. I didn't even bother listening to the voicemail. I just blocked her number and deleted the message. The truth is, I'm done with that chapter of my life. It's over. They thought they could break me, but I came out of it stronger. Now, I'm focusing on myself, building a life where no one can take advantage of me again. Justice was served, and I'm moving on. That's all there is to it. And to anyone reading this who's dealing with toxic people or situations, here's my advice. Know your worth. Don't let anyone make you feel small or powerless. Stand your ground, because at the end of the day, you deserve respect, and the only person who can truly fight for you is you. Story 4. This story is titled, My Girlfriend Rejected My Proposal, so I ended our relationship and kicked her out of the apartment. Hi everyone. Before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and makes sure you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, 30 male, and I guess you could say I've been going through it lately. So here's the thing. A few weeks ago, I proposed to my girlfriend of 4 years, Brooke, 27 female, and it didn't go as planned. Actually, it went completely sideways. And honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what happened. Let me start with some background. Brooke and I met through mutual friends at this small barbecue. We hit it off right away. Same sense of humor, similar life goals, and she was just easy to talk to. Over the years, we built this life together. We talked about everything. Marriage, kids, our dream house. Brooke would get excited about wedding stuff, even when we weren't actively planning anything. She'd send me links to engagement rings she liked, or point out wedding venues when we drove by. It wasn't constant or over the top, but it was clear she wanted that life with me, or so I thought. Fast forward to this year, our 4th anniversary. I figured, okay, it's time to make it official. I started planning the proposal months in advance because I wanted it to be special, not just for her, but for both of us. I'm not great at this romantic stuff, so I got help from my buddies, Kevin and James. They've been my best friends since college, and they were hyped about the whole thing. We planned everything to the last detail. I booked this resort Brooke had mentioned wanting to visit ages ago. It was a little pricey, but I figured it was worth it. Kevin and James helped me pick out the ring, a simple, classic style because Brooke's not into flashy stuff. And we set up this private dinner at the resort with candles, flowers, the whole 9 yards. Here's the part where it gets a little complicated. I didn't just plan a private moment. Brooke's friends, Chloe and Anna, were in on it too. They were supposed to show up after the proposal with drinks and be part of the celebration. My buddies were going to be there too. It wasn't a huge crowd, but enough to make it feel special. The day of the proposal, everything seemed perfect. Brooke was in a great mood. We spent the day relaxing, and I was nervous but excited. When it was time for dinner, I got dressed up and tried to keep my cool. Brooke looked amazing, and I couldn't stop thinking about how lucky I was. So, we get to the setup. Candles, flowers, soft music playing in the background. I made this little speech about how much she meant to me, and then I got down on one knee. I held up the ring and asked her to marry me. And that's when everything went wrong. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. She just froze. For what felt like forever. Finally, she said, Ethan, I need more time. It felt like the vibes got completely wrecked. I couldn't even process what she was saying. Her friends, my friends, everyone was there, and I could feel them all staring at us. I felt embarrassed, confused, and honestly, pretty hurt. Brooke started apologizing right away, saying she wasn't saying no. She just wasn't ready yet, and that she needed more time. But by that point, I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to keep it together and not completely fall apart in front of everyone. Kevin and James tried to keep things light, joking around to ease the tension, but it didn't help. Chloe and Anna looked just as uncomfortable as I felt. Brooke kept apologizing, and I kept nodding, pretending like everything was fine. But inside, I was a mess. We left the dinner early. The car ride back to the hotel was completely silent. I was staring out the window, replaying the whole thing in my head, while Brooke was sitting next to me, probably doing the same. I couldn't even look at her. When we got back to the room, she tried to explain herself again. She said she needed more time to think, that it wasn't about me, and that she just wasn't in the right headspace for a big decision like marriage. But none of it made sense to me. We'd talked about this stuff for years. She knew I was serious about her, and she'd always acted like she was serious about me too. I asked her straight up, "Do you even want to marry me?" She said yes, but she wasn't ready to say yes right now. And honestly, that answer felt like a slap in the face. You either want to marry someone or you don't, right? It shouldn't be that complicated. We barely spoke the rest of the trip. I felt embarrassed, not just for myself, but for involving all our friends. It was supposed to be this beautiful, life-changing moment, and instead, it felt like a total disaster. When we got back home, things didn't get any better. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Was it me? Did I move too fast? Did I miss some kind of sign that she wasn't ready? I started replaying our relationship in my head, overanalyzing every conversation, every moment, looking for something I might have overlooked. Brooke, on the other hand, acted like everything was fine. She'd bring me coffee in the morning, ask me how my day was, and try to make small talk, but it all felt off, like we were pretending nothing had happened. I didn't tell anyone about the proposal right away. Not my parents, not my coworkers, no one. The only people who knew were the ones who were there, and even then I didn't want to talk about it. I felt like such an idiot for thinking everything was perfect when clearly it wasn't. But I reached out to my sister Jenna. She's always been the bold one in the family, the type to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I figured if anyone could give me some perspective, it'd be her. Little did I know, she was about to make things even more confusing. When I called Jenna, I wasn't even sure how to explain what had happened. It felt embarrassing to admit, like I'd somehow failed. But she could tell something was up as soon as I said, "Hey, you got a minute?" She didn't waste any time, jumping straight to, "What's wrong?" So I told her. All of it. The proposal, Brooke's reaction, the silence in the car afterward, and how awkward things had been since we got back. By the time I finished, I was pacing around my apartment, my heart racing like it had all just happened again. There was this long pause on the other end of the line, and I was bracing myself for Jenna to tell me I was overreacting. Instead, she said, "Ethan, I don't want to freak you out, but what Brooke did? That's kind of a red flag." I stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "Look, when a woman hesitates on a proposal, it's usually not just nerves. There's something else going on. Either she's not sure about you, or there's someone else in the picture." My stomach dropped. Someone else? Are you serious right now? I couldn't believe it. Like, how come she could be thinking of someone else after staying together for 4 years, and I'm being committed and actually proposed to her? "I'm not saying she's definitely cheating or anything," Jenna said quickly. "But think about it. You've been together for 4 years, Ethan. 4 years. She knew this was coming. It's not like you blindsided her. And if she's not ready now, what's she waiting for?" Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I didn't want to believe Brooke could be hiding something like that from me, but I couldn't ignore the way Jenna's explanation made sense. Brooke and I had always been solid, or at least I thought we were. But now I was questioning everything. "Maybe I rushed it," I said, trying to defend Brooke, or maybe myself. "Maybe she really just needs time to process." "Ethan, come on," Jenna said, her voice firm. "Do you really believe that? You've been dropping hints for months. You booked a whole trip just to propose. If she wasn't ready, she should have told you before you got down on one knee in front of all those people." Jenna honestly had a point. Brooke had always been straightforward with me about what she wanted, or at least she used to be. Lately, though, things had felt different. I started telling Jenna about the little things that had been bothering me, how Brooke had been working late more often, how she'd started going out with her friends more, how her phone was always on silent. I hadn't thought much of it at the time because I trusted her, but now, with Jenna's words in my head, it all seemed suspicious. "Ethan, I hate to say this, but it sounds like classic girl code," Jenna said. "Girl code?" I asked, confused. "It's when a girl hesitates because she's keeping her options open," she explained. "She's not ready to commit to you because she's not sure you're the only one she wants." I didn't know what to say. The idea of Brooke keeping her options open had me going nuts. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. The thought of her hiding something like that from me made me feel sick. But at the same time, I couldn't just accuse her of something without proof. What if Jenna was wrong? What if Brooke really was just overwhelmed or scared? "I don't know, Jenna," I said finally. "It feels wrong to jump to conclusion. I mean, she's never given me a reason not to trust her." "Has she, though?" Jenna asked. "Think about it. Has she been acting differently lately?" I thought back to the past few months. The late nights, the weekends away, the guarded phone. It all seemed so obvious now, but at the time I'd brushed it off. I trusted Brooke. I truly loved her. I didn't want to believe she was capable of hurting me like that. "Maybe," I admitted. "But what am I supposed to do? Go through her phone? Spy on her? I feel that would be so stupid." "No," Jenna said firmly. "That's not who you are and it's not who you want to be. But you need to pay attention, Ethan. If there's something going on, she'll slip up eventually." I didn't want to hear it. I wanted Jenna to tell me I was overthinking everything, that Brooke just needed time and everything would be fine. But deep down, I knew she was right. Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. After we hung up, I sat on the couch, staring at the ring I'd planned to give Brooke. It was still in its little velvet box, untouched since that night at the resort. I can't believe I actually thought everything was all good when it clearly wasn't. What made it worse was how Brooke started watching me, like she was trying to read my mood or figure out what I was thinking. Whenever we were in the same room, I could feel her eyes on me. Sometimes she'd ask if I was okay, but it wasn't in a casual way. It felt loaded, like she was fishing for reassurance. At first, I didn't respond much. I was too frustrated and confused to talk about it. But the more she kept trying to gauge how I felt, the angrier I got. It wasn't just that she was asking, it was the way she did it. Like she already knew she'd hurt me and was looking for a way to make herself feel better about it. She'd drop these small, almost apologetic comments like, "You've been quiet lately," or, "I feel like we haven't talked much." Once she even said, "I hate that things feel weird between us." I didn't know how to respond to that. Things didn't feel weird. They were weird. And the fact that she kept tiptoeing around it instead of addressing it directly made me feel worse. It was like she wanted me to fix something she'd broken. The next few days were brutal. Brooke acted like nothing had happened, like we were fine, but I couldn't stop analyzing every little thing she said or did. When she went out with her friends, I wondered if she was really with them. When she came home late from work, I wondered if she'd really been at the office. I hated myself for thinking that way. Brooke had always been so good to me, so supportive and loving. But now, every time I looked at her, I saw doubt. The worst part was not knowing. Not knowing if Jenna was right. Not knowing if Brooke was hiding something. Not knowing if I'd ever be able to trust her again. I feel stuck, like I'm living in this limbo where nothing makes sense anymore. I loved Brooke, but I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong besides that shitty incident. And the longer it goes on, the more it eats away at me. Tell me, guys, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Update 1. Thank you all for your comments. I didn't expect this to blow up. Here's what happened lately. I didn't know that things were only going to get more complicated since my last post. A few days after my conversation with Jenna, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. Girl code sounded like some kind of made-up thing, but Jenna wasn't the type to throw around baseless ideas. And the way she explained it, it stuck in my head like glue. I found myself overanalyzing everything Brooke had done over the last few months. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't turn it off. Brooke, on the other hand, acted like nothing had changed. She was still polite, still affectionate in that casual way we'd always been with each other. But there was this invisible wall between us now. We didn't talk about the proposal or the trip, and I wasn't about to bring it up. Instead, I started noticing more. She was glued to her phone more than usual, and whenever I'd casually glance her way, she'd lock the screen or flip it face down. It didn't feel right. I started paying attention to the way she'd hesitate before answering certain questions, how she'd keep her explanations short, almost rushed, when I asked how her day was. But even then, I couldn't be sure. I kept telling myself there were other explanations. Maybe she was embarrassed about the proposal. Maybe she was overwhelmed and didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe I was just being paranoid because of what Jenna had planted in my head. Then Jenna flipped the switch. She texted me. I was at work, pretending to focus on emails, but really just staring at my screen, replaying the last few weeks in my head. The notification popped up. "We need to talk about Brooke." I heard something. My stomach sank. Jenna wasn't one for drama or vague messages, so I knew this wasn't going to be good. I stepped out of the office and called her right away. She didn't waste time. I was talking to one of my friends, and Brooke's name came up. Apparently, she's been spending a lot of time with some guy from work. Like, a lot. I didn't say anything at first. My mind was racing, trying to connect dots that hadn't even been there 5 seconds ago. "What does that mean?" I finally asked. Jenna explained that her friend, who worked in a different department at Brooke's company, had mentioned seeing Brooke out at lunch with this guy more than a few times. Nothing suspicious on the surface, but Jenna's friend thought it was odd, because apparently they looked close. I didn't know what to do with that information. Lunch with a coworker didn't mean anything, right? People go to lunch with coworkers all the time. But Jenna's friend wasn't just some random person. She was reliable, honest. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a coincidence. That night, I tried to act normal around Brooke, but it felt impossible. Every time her phone buzzed, every time she mentioned work, I found myself wondering if she was talking to him, whoever he was. She mentioned a late meeting the next day, and instead of just nodding like I usually did, I felt this knot in my stomach. After Brooke went to bed, I stayed up thinking about everything Jenna had told me. If I confronted Brooke, what was I even going to say? "Hey, I heard from my sister's friend that you've been hanging out with some guy from work. Is there something you want to tell me?" It sounded ridiculous, like I was grasping at straws, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore it. The next day, I decided to call Jenna again. I needed more context, more details, something concrete to go on. When I asked, she hesitated at first, like she didn't want to make things worse. But eventually, she admitted that her friend had seen Brooke and the guy at a coffee shop after work once. And it wasn't just any coffee shop. It was one Brooke and I used to go to all the time when we first started dating. That hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't proof of anything, but it felt intentional. Like a small piece of our life together had been used for something else, something that didn't include me. I started questioning every decision I'd made in the past few weeks. Should I have paid more attention? Should I have asked more questions? Maybe Jenna's girl code theory wasn't just some random idea. Maybe it was the explanation I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. By the weekend, I felt like I was losing my grip. Brooke had been distant all week, but not in an obvious way. She still smiled at me, still asked about my day, but there was this detachment, like she was going through the motions. Jenna texted me again on Sunday. You need to talk to her. If she's hiding something, she's not going to admit it unless you push. But I don't know how to push without crossing a line. I don't want to be the guy who accuses his girlfriend of something without evidence. At the same time, I can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I'm in a tough position, but I feel like soon I will make my decision. I'll let you guys updated. Update 2. Hey guys, first off, thank you for all the support and advice on my last post. I've spent the past few days trying to process everything, your perspective, and I decided to confront Brooke like most of you suggested. But let me tell you what happened before that. After a few days since Jenna sent me that text, I'd had enough. The tension in the apartment was suffocating, and I wasn't going to keep it low. Brooke was going through her routines like we were fine, like her brushing off my proposal wasn't the giant red flag that it clearly was. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't just sit there like I was okay with being treated as some backup plan while she figured out her life. I'd spent weeks replaying that moment, me on one knee, pouring my heart out, and her looking at me like I was asking for a favor instead of committing to a future together. It wasn't just about the hesitation. It was about what it meant. She was still unsure about me. Not even after 4 years. Not after everything we'd built. I mean, how many years does she need to make sure I'm the one? That's ridiculous. And now? She was distant, quiet, and acting like she had no clue what the problem was. That night, after dinner, I sat across from her at the table. She was scrolling on her phone, like she always did, completely checked out. I wasn't going to wait for the right moment. This was the moment. We need to talk, I said, leaning forward. She glanced up, caught off guard. About what? Are you seeing someone else? I asked flat out. Her jaw dropped. She set her phone down slowly, like she was trying to buy time. What are you talking about? Why would you even ask me that? Because nothing about us feels right anymore, I said, my tone sharp. You've been distant for weeks. You shut me out after the proposal, and now it feels like you're just waiting for something better, or someone better. And if that's what's happening, I need to know. Her face hardened. You really think I'd cheat on you? Maybe not outright, I said, folding my arms. But let's not act like this coworker of yours hasn't come up. Jenna told me about the coffee shop. You didn't tell me you were spending time with him? Why's that? Brooke let out a sharp breath, like she was trying to keep her composure. Because it's not a big deal, she said. We're working on a project together. That's all it is. Then why hide it? I asked, leaning forward. Why keep it a secret if it's so innocent? I wasn't hiding it, she snapped. I just didn't think you needed to know every detail of my work life. That's not the point, Brooke, I said, my voice rising. The point is, you've been acting like I'm the only one fighting for this relationship, and I'm done with it. If this guy isn't a big deal, fine. But you didn't say yes to my proposal. You asked for more time. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? How it felt to stand there, thinking I'd planned this perfect moment, only for you to tell me you weren't ready? I wasn't ready, she said, her voice defensive. And I told you that. It's not because of someone else. It's because I needed to think. Think about what? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're thinking about whether or not you even want to be with me. And if that's the case, just say it. Don't string me along while you figure out your life. I'm not stringing you along, she said. I've been trying to sort through everything in my head, but you're making this into something it's not. Don't gaslight me, I said, my voice cold. You've been pulling away from me for weeks. And if it's not because of this guy, then what is it? Because I'm tired of the guessing games. Brooke stood up, crossing her arms. You want to know why I hesitated? She said. Fine. I hesitated because marriage is a big deal. Because it's permanent. And I wasn't sure I was ready to make that commitment. Not because of you, not because of anyone else. Because of me. Her words hit me, but they didn't land the way she probably thought they would. I stood up too, meeting her gaze. So, what you're saying is, after 4 years, you're still not sure about me? That's not what I'm saying. she said quickly. I love you, Ethan. I do. But I wasn't ready for that moment. Well, I was, I said, my tone sharp. And I thought we were on the same page. I wouldn't have asked you if I thought for a second that you didn't feel the same way. It took me only 6 months to be sure about you, but I gave it more time for you to feel ready. But now? Now I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning if you even see a future with me, or if I'm just the guy you're settling for while you figure out your options. Brooke's face fell, but I wasn't about to back down. You've made me feel like I'm not enough, I continued. Like I'm just here to fill a void until you decide what you really want. And I can't live like that, Brooke. I deserve better. I never meant to make you feel that way, she said quietly. But you did, I said. And now I have to decide if I can even stay in this relationship, knowing that I'm not your first choice. Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Ethan, you are my choice. I've just been confused, I cut her off. Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. I'm not confused. I know what I want. I want someone who's sure about me, someone who doesn't need time to decide if I'm worth committing to. And if you can't be that person, then I don't know what we're doing here. Brooke didn't respond. She just stood there, her expression a mix of guilt and frustration. The silence stretched between us, heavy and unrelenting. Finally, I stepped back. I'm going to give you some time to think, I said. But I'm not going to wait forever. If you can't give me a real answer soon, an answer that tells me you're all in, then I'm done. With that, I left the room, heading to the bedroom to clear my mind. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I'd taken control of the situation. Whether Brooke stayed or not, I wasn't going to keep feeling like a second option. Whatever is going to happen next, it was going to be on my terms. Final update. Hey guys, thought of giving you an update since most of you are asking what did I do. Well, honestly, I wasn't proud of how heated things got. But at the same time, I didn't regret saying what I needed to say. For weeks, hell, maybe months, I'd been bottling up all this frustration and confusion. The proposal, the hesitation, her distance afterward, and now this shadow of doubt hovering over us. I couldn't ignore it anymore, and asking her directly about the coworker had been inevitable. The thing that bothered me the most wasn't even her vague answer about him. It was her overall hesitation, about us, about marriage, about everything. I wasn't asking her to marry me tomorrow. I just needed to know that we were heading in the same direction. Her saying she wasn't ready felt like she wasn't ready for me. After sitting there for a while, I decided I needed to clear my head. I didn't want to call Jenna. I needed to hear from someone else. So I texted Kevin since he was in the proposal and knew what happened. Hey, can we talk? Need some advice? Kevin was one of those friends who didn't sugarcoat things, and that's what I needed right now. When he called me a few minutes later, I stepped out onto the balcony to avoid waking Brooke, even though I doubted she was sleeping after our fight. I filled him in on everything. Brooke's hesitation after the proposal, her recent distance, and the conversation we'd just had. Kevin let me vent without interrupting, which was exactly what I needed. When I finally finished, he sighed. Ethan, I'm going to be honest with you. You're doing the right thing by standing up for yourself. If she's not sure about you after 4 years, that's a problem. I get that marriage is a big step, but she should at least want to take that step with you. The fact that she's hesitating, that's not something you can just ignore. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, I know. But it's hard. I don't want to just throw away everything we've built, you know? I get it, he said. But you also don't want to spend years with someone who's not all in. You deserve better than that. I ended the call and walked back into the living room. Brooke was still sitting on the couch, clutching a blanket like it was her shield against what was coming. Her phone was still untouched on the table, the light from the TV flickering over her face. She looked up as I walked in, her eyes darting to me nervously. For weeks, I'd been holding back, giving her space, trying to understand her hesitation. But after everything, it was clear. I couldn't keep doing this. We need to talk, I said. She nodded, her hands twisting the edge of the blanket. I know, she said softly. I sat down trying to be reasonable. Brooke, I started, I've been patient. I've been giving you time, trying to figure out what's going on with us. But I'm at my limit. You've been distant ever since the proposal. I've tried to understand. I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. But it feels like you're not even trying anymore. She didn't say anything, her eyes glued to the blanket in her lap. I need to know, I continued, my voice tightening. Are you in this or not? Because I can't keep waking up every day wondering if you're just waiting for a better option to come along. It's not like that, she said quickly, looking up at me. Then what is it like, Brooke? I shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels a hell of a lot like I'm being strung along while you figure out your life. And I can't do that anymore. I won't. Ethan, she said. I don't know how to say this. Just say it, I said, my tone sharp. Whatever it is, just say it for God's sake. I'm done with the games. So she hit me with, "I've been seeing someone," she admitted, her words barely audible. I froze. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. But then the weight of her words hit me like a sledgehammer. "What?" I said. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt and tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said quickly. It happened. And I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you." At that point, I lost it. There was no way I'm taking this calmly. "Didn't want to hurt me?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You didn't want to hurt me, so you decided to sneak around behind my back instead? And playing with me until I kneel down and propose only for you to say I'm not sure? Do you even hear yourself, Brooke?" "I'm not with him," she said desperately. "I'm not sure about him either. That's the problem. I don't know what I want, Ethan." "You don't know what you want?" I said, standing up abruptly. "After 4 years? After everything we've built together? You don't know what you want? Do you have any idea how pathetic that sounds?" She flinched, but I didn't care. I was done holding back. "I was ready to spend my life with you," I continued, my voice shaking with anger. "I was ready to build a future with you. And while I was planning our next steps, you were out not being sure about someone else? Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me?" "I didn't mean for it to get this far," she said, tears streaming down her face now. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "But it did," I said, cutting her off. "You let it happen. And then you sat here day after day, pretending like everything was fine while you ripped this relationship apart behind my back." "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "Sorry?" I said bitterly. "You're sorry? Do you think that changes anything? Do you think that fixes the fact that you've been lying to me? That you've been lying to yourself?" She didn't respond, just sat there shaking. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my tone colder now. "You're not sure about him? Fine. But the fact that you were even in a position to make that comparison tells me everything I need to know about where we stand." "Ethan, please," she said, standing up now, reaching toward me. "We can work through this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." "No, Brooke," I said firmly, stepping back. "You don't get to fix this. You don't get to sit here and decide now, after everything, that I'm the one you want." Her face crumpled, but I didn't let it sway me. "Get out from my house," I said, my voice like steel. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. "Ethan, please don't do this." "You did this," I said, pointing at her. "You made this choice the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. You made this choice the moment you let someone else into our relationship. So don't stand here and act like I'm the bad guy. Pack your things and go." She hesitated, but when she saw the resolve in my face, she nodded slowly. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the bedroom. I stood there, listening as she packed her things, my heart heavy but resolute. When she finally walked out the door, she paused, looking at me one last time. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind her, locking it and leaning against it as the weight of everything settled over me. The apartment was quiet now, but for the first time in weeks, the silence felt like peace. That night she left my life, I called my Jenna, just to assure her it was not the coworker that we were debating. It was another guy. Writing this now seems pathetic and laughable. Anyway, I told her everything. How Brooke admitted to seeing someone else, but claimed it wasn't serious. And how I couldn't stay in a relationship with someone who treated me like an option. Jenna was shocked at the beginning, but also supportive. "You did the right thing. You deserve better." A few days later, I got a call from Brooke's sister, Lila. She wanted to know what happened. I explained everything. Her hesitation at the proposal, her confession, and my decision to end things. To my surprise, Lila said, "I'm sorry, Ethan. You didn't deserve that. Brooke's been lost lately, and I hope she figures herself out. But you made the right choice." Since then, I've been focusing on myself. I sold that doomed engagement ring. It felt like holding on to a very bad memory in my life, so there was no need for it. The money's in savings now. A reminder to invest in my future instead of clinging to the past. It hasn't been easy. Some days, I replay everything in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I know this wasn't about me. Brooke's hesitation and choices were hers, not a reflection of my worth. I'm not ready to date again yet. But that's okay. For now, I'm taking time to heal and rebuild. To everyone who's been following my story, thank you. Your advice and support gave me the strength to stand up for myself. If you're in a similar situation, trust your instincts. You deserve someone who's all in, no doubts, no hesitation. It's hard to let go, but sometimes it's the only way forward. Life isn't perfect, but I'm learning to embrace the uncertainty, one day at a time. Here's to new beginnings. Story 5. Overheard my wife telling her friend she regrets settling for me, but later karma hit her hard. Alright, so I guess I should start with some context. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and my wife Emma is 24. We've been together for a few years, married for just 3 months. Things have been, well, pretty normal. At least that's what I thought. We'd have the usual ups and downs, but nothing major. Honestly, I thought we were doing fine. Anyway, the other night, something happened that completely flipped my world upside down. I wasn't snooping or anything, but I overheard Emma on the phone while I was passing by our bedroom. I didn't even mean to listen in, but sometimes you catch bits and pieces of conversations, right? Well, this was one of those times, and what I heard has been messing with my head ever since. So, Emma's talking to one of her best friends. I'm not sure who it was, but it sounded like one of those deep, serious talks. You know, the kind where you can tell someone's venting about life. I was about to keep walking, but then I heard my name. That made me pause for a second because, well, who wouldn't? Hearing your name in a private conversation sparks curiosity, even if you don't want it to. Emma says, "Don't settle for just anyone. That's the mistake I made with Michael." My heart stopped. I felt like I got punched in the gut. She went on, "He was my last resort, and now look where it's gotten me." I just stood there, frozen. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. My wife, the woman I thought was happy with me, saying I was her last resort. I couldn't even process it right away. I felt like my brain was short-circuiting. Like, how do you even react to something like that? My first instinct was to barge in and demand an explanation, but I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I was too shocked, or maybe I didn't want to hear more. Either way, I just walked away. The rest of the night, I couldn't think about anything else. I tried to act normal around Emma, but it was impossible. Every time I looked at her, I heard those words again in my head. Last resort. It's like they were burned into my brain. I kept asking myself, how long has she felt this way? Has she always thought of me like this? Was I blind this whole time? I didn't sleep that night. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying that conversation over and over. Part of me wanted to believe there was some kind of misunderstanding, that maybe I didn't hear her right. But deep down, I knew what I heard, and there was no twisting it into something else. The thing is, I never saw any signs of this before. Emma always seemed happy, or at least content. Sure, we had our occasional arguments, but who doesn't? There was nothing that made me think she felt trapped or like she had settled for me. It's not like she was forced into this marriage. We were together for a good while before tying the knot. We talked about our future, our goals, even kids someday. None of it ever felt fake or forced. At least, not to me. As I lay there that night, my mind started spiraling. What if she's always felt this way and just never said anything? What if every moment we shared, every "I love you," was just her going through the motions? I felt like a complete idiot, thinking back to all the times I thought we were happy, wondering if it was all just an act on her part. And then another thought hit me. What if there's someone else? I mean, she mentioned settling for me, right? Who's to say there wasn't someone before me that she really wanted to be with? Someone she still thinks about? That thought made my stomach churn. I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but once the idea was in my head, it wouldn't leave. By morning, I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Emma woke up, looking as cheerful as ever, like nothing had happened. I tried to play it cool, but inside, I was a mess. I couldn't bring myself to confront her right away. I needed more time to figure out what to say and how to say it. But every second I spent not talking about it felt like I was suffocating. Throughout the day, I kept catching myself watching her, analyzing her every move. Was she texting someone else? Did she seem distant? Was she hiding something? Honestly, I felt paranoid, like I was losing my mind. But how could I not? Hearing your partner say you were their last choice messes with you in ways you don't expect. I even thought about talking to one of my friends about it, but I felt too embarrassed. What would I even say? "Hey, I overheard my wife say I was her last resort. What should I do?" It sounds ridiculous, like something out of a bad drama. Plus, I didn't want to paint Emma in a bad light to my friends if this turned out to be something we could work through. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just brush this under the rug. This was too big to ignore. As the day went on, my anxiety kept building. I knew I had to talk to her, but I couldn't shake the fear of what I might hear. What if she confirmed everything? What if she admitted she didn't really love me? Or worse, what if she just shrugged it off like it didn't matter? The thought of confronting her made my heart race, but I knew avoiding it wouldn't make it go away. By the time evening rolled around, I made up my mind. I had to bring it up, no matter how hard it was. I couldn't live with this gnawing at me. So after dinner, I casually said, "Hey, we should talk later." She looked at me, a bit surprised, but just nodded. Little did she know that conversation would change everything. After overhearing Emma say I was her last resort, my mind was racing. I couldn't shake the words, no matter how much I tried to convince myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as it sounded. The next day, everything felt different. I started noticing little things I hadn't really paid attention to before, or maybe I just didn't want to see them. Emma was acting off. I mean, she still smiled, she still said all the right things, but there was something about the way she carried herself, like she was trying a bit too hard to act normal. Or maybe I was just imagining it because of what I heard. Either way, the tension was there, even if neither of us said anything about it. That morning, as we were having breakfast, I couldn't help but steal glances at her. She was scrolling through her phone like she usually does, but every now and then, I'd catch her typing quickly, then deleting and retyping. I don't know why, but it made me feel uneasy. I asked her casually, "Who are you texting?" She looked up, almost startled, like she didn't expect me to notice. "Oh, just a friend," she said, her voice a little too casual. "You don't know her." And then she went right back to her phone. That wasn't unusual, but now everything felt suspicious. I didn't press her, though. I just nodded and pretended like it didn't bother me. But it did. Throughout the day, I kept replaying her words from the night before. Was she texting the same friend she was talking to on the phone? Or was it someone else? My mind was coming up with 1,000 scenarios, none of them good. I kept thinking, what if she's hiding something? What if there's more to this than just her feeling like she settled for me? Later that afternoon, I caught her again on her phone. This time, she was smiling at the screen. It wasn't the kind of smile you give when you're texting a friend about something funny. It was more intimate. I couldn't help but ask, "What's so funny?" She looked up, quickly locking her phone. "Oh, nothing," she said, brushing it off. "Just a meme." But there was something about the way she said it, like she was trying to keep me from digging any deeper. That's when the doubt really started creeping in. Was there someone else? Was she still talking to an ex or someone from her past? I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband who questions every little thing, but after what I heard, I couldn't help it. Every little action felt like a clue to a bigger secret. The weirdest part was how normal she was acting otherwise, like nothing had changed. We still went about our day, running errands, making dinner, watching TV together, but there was this unspoken tension between us. At least I felt it. I don't know if she did or if she was just that good at pretending. At one point, we were sitting on the couch watching some random show, and she leaned over, resting her head on my shoulder. It felt nice, but it also felt wrong. Like, how could she be so affectionate after what she said? Did she even mean it? Or was this her way of pretending everything was fine? I wanted to say something, to bring it up right then and there, but I couldn't find the right words. What if I was blowing this out of proportion? What if I misunderstood her conversation? But no matter how much I tried to rationalize it, I kept going back to that one sentence. Michael was my last resort. It wasn't just about the words, it was about the way she said them. There was no hesitation, no hint of a joke. It sounded like something she genuinely believed. And that's what hurt the most. By the end of the day, I was mentally exhausted. I couldn't keep living like this, second-guessing everything she said and did. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed to find the right moment. The problem was, every time I thought about bringing it up, I felt this knot in my stomach. What if the conversation went worse than I expected? What if she confirmed all my worst fears? As we got ready for bed, Emma seemed completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. She kissed me goodnight and rolled over, falling asleep almost instantly. Meanwhile, I was lying there, wide awake, my mind racing with a million thoughts. I started thinking back to all the moments in our relationship where I might have missed signs. Were there times when she seemed distant, but I brushed it off as her having a bad day? Were there moments when she hinted at being unhappy, but I was too blind to see it? And then there was the nagging thought. What if she was comparing me to someone else? Someone she thought was better? The idea of being someone's backup plan, the person they settled for because they couldn't have what they really wanted, made me feel sick. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours, trying to figure out my next move. I couldn't keep living with this doubt, but I also couldn't just blurt it out in the middle of the night. I needed to find the right time and the right words. But more importantly, I needed to be ready for whatever she was going to say. Because deep down, I knew that once I opened that door, there was no going back. All right, so after a few days of feeling like my head was about to explode from all the overthinking, I finally decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to talk to Emma. I mean, how do you just sit on something like that? Knowing your wife sees you as a last resort? It was eating me alive, and I knew if I didn't bring it up, I'd probably go insane. That morning, we were both home. I tried to keep things as normal as possible. even though I felt like my heart was racing out of my chest. We had breakfast together, but I couldn't taste a damn thing. I just kept staring at her, trying to figure out how to start the conversation. Every time I opened my mouth to say something, I'd chicken out. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. After we finished eating, I took a deep breath and said, "Hey, Emma, we need to talk." She looked up from her phone, a little surprised, but didn't say anything. I motioned for us to sit in the living room. We sat down on the couch, and the tension in the air was so thick you could probably cut it with a knife. Emma looked at me, her face a mix of curiosity and concern. I could tell she was trying to figure out what was coming. "Okay," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." She nodded, still quiet. I took another deep breath, and then just went for it. "A few nights ago, I overheard you on the phone with your friend. You said something about settling for me, and that I was your last resort." Her eyes widened, and for a moment she didn't say anything. It was like time had frozen, and I was just sitting there, waiting for the world's worst news to drop. Finally, she let out a nervous laugh, the kind you do when you're caught off guard. "Wait, you heard that?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my cool. "I heard everything." She looked down at her hands, fiddling with her fingers. "Michael, I didn't mean it like that. I was just talking with my friend. It was a stupid thing to say." "Stupid?" I repeated, feeling the frustration building up. "Emma, you said I was your last resort. That's not just stupid, that's crushing." She sighed, rubbing her temples like she was trying to think of the right words. "I was venting, okay? It wasn't serious. Sometimes you just say things in the heat of the moment, and they don't mean anything." "Don't mean anything?" I shot back. "Emma, those words don't come out of nowhere. You don't just casually tell someone you settled for your husband unless there's some truth behind it." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and frustration. "It's not like that, Michael. I was talking about how everyone feels pressure to get married, to settle down. I was just, I don't know, venting about life." "But why say that about me? About us?" I asked, my voice rising a little. "If you were just venting, you could have said anything else. Why did it have to be about settling for me?" Emma shook her head, tears starting to well up in her eyes. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I love you, Michael. I really do. I was just feeling stressed, and it came out wrong." I wanted to believe her, I really did. But something about the whole thing felt off, like there was more she wasn't telling me. "Emma, I need to know. Do you really feel like you settled for me? Like I was your last resort?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down again, avoiding my eyes. The silence was deafening, and every second that passed felt like an eternity. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know." That hit me like a ton of bricks. "You don't know?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does that even mean?" "It means I don't know how I feel sometimes," she said, her voice trembling. "I love you, but sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Not because of you, but because of me. I'm scared I rushed into this too fast, and now I don't know how to fix it." I leaned back on the couch, trying to process everything. Part of me was angry, but another part just felt sad, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. "So what now?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. "What are we supposed to do with this?" Emma wiped her eyes, sniffling. "I don't know," she said again. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen." We sat there in silence for what felt like forever. Neither of us knew what to say or where to go from here. The only thing I knew for sure was that our marriage was now on shaky ground, and I didn't know if we could fix it. After the conversation with Emma, everything felt like it was hanging by a thread. It was awkward, tense, and honestly exhausting. We didn't talk much the rest of that day. It was like we both needed space but were too afraid to actually say it. Every little thing felt heavy, like we were walking on eggshells around each other. The next morning, things were no better. We went through the usual motions. Breakfast, getting ready for the day, but it was like we were on autopilot. I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. "I don't know." Those three words just kept replaying in my head. It felt like a death sentence for our marriage, but at the same time, it left everything so open-ended. Like there was no real closure. Emma was unusually quiet too. Normally, she's the one who keeps the conversation going, but now it was like she was lost in her own thoughts. I caught her staring at her phone a lot, probably texting that same friend from before. I didn't have the energy to ask about it, though. I was too drained to even care at that point. By the afternoon, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I needed to get out of the house. I told Emma I was going for a walk, and she just nodded, not even looking up from her phone. That stung more than I expected. I walked around aimlessly for a while, trying to clear my head. But no matter how far I walked, I couldn't escape the storm inside me. When I got back, Emma was in the same spot on the couch, still glued to her phone. I don't know why, but seeing her like that made something snap inside me. I blurted out, "Emma, we need to figure this out. We can't keep pretending everything's fine." She looked up, startled. "I know," she said quietly. "I just don't know where to start." "Start by being honest with me," I said, my voice more forceful than I intended. "Do you even want to be in this marriage? Because right now it feels like you're already checked out." She bit her lip, clearly struggling with what to say. "Michael, I don't want to hurt you, but I feel so confused. I thought getting married would make things clearer, but it's only made me realize how unsure I am." That was like another punch to the gut. "So, what are you saying? You want out?" "I don't know," she repeated, and I felt like I was going in circles. "I just need time to figure out what I really want." Time. That's always the go-to, isn't it? But time wasn't what I needed. I needed answers. I needed to know if we had a future or if I was just wasting my time holding on to something that was already dead. "Emma, time isn't going to fix this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're either in this together or we're not. Sitting around waiting isn't going to magically make things better." She looked away, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know what you want me to say, Michael. I'm scared. I don't want to make the wrong decision." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "And what about me? Do you think this is easy for me? I'm sitting here questioning everything about our relationship, wondering if you ever really loved me, or if I was just the guy you settled for because you didn't want to be alone." Her head snapped back to me. "That's not fair. I do love you, Michael. I'm scared I rushed into this." "Then why didn't you say something before we got married?" I asked, feeling the frustration boil over. "You had every chance to call it off if you weren't sure." "Because I thought I could make it work," she admitted. "I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want to be alone." There it was. The truth I had been dreading but half expected. She stayed with me out of fear, not love, and now we were both paying the price for it. We sat in silence for a long time after that, both of us lost in our own thoughts. I didn't know what to say anymore. What do you even say to someone who's basically told you they're not sure if they want to be with you? Eventually, Emma spoke up. "Maybe we need some space, just for a little while, to think things through." "Space," I repeated, almost laughing at the irony. "We've been living in the same house, but we've already been worlds apart for days now. What difference would more space make?" She didn't have an answer for that, and honestly, neither did I. We were stuck in this weird limbo, and it was tearing us both apart. That night, we slept in the same bed, but it felt like we were miles away from each other. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we got to this point, wondering if there was any way to fix it, or if this was the beginning of the end. I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter what we decided, things would never be the same again. After everything that had happened, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay stuck in this limbo forever. Emma's indecision, her "I don't know" about our marriage, was like a slow poison. It was eating away at me, and if I didn't do something soon, it was going to destroy me. I needed to take control of my own life, even if that meant walking away from the person I thought I'd spend forever with. The next morning, I woke up feeling more determined than I had in days. Emma was still asleep, curled up on her side of the bed, looking peaceful, like none of this was weighing on her as much as it was on me. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe she had already mentally checked out, and I was the one left holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. I got up quietly and went to the living room. Sitting there, I started thinking about what my life would look like without Emma. It was scary, sure, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been living in fear long enough. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of starting over. But maybe, just maybe, being alone was better than being someone's last resort. I spent the day gathering my thoughts, figuring out what I wanted to say to her. I wasn't going to let this drag on any longer. It was time for us to have a real conversation, one that wasn't filled with half-truths and I don't knows. That evening after dinner, I sat her down. "Emma, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. She looked at me, her face serious. "Okay." I took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us, about everything that's happened. And I can't keep living like this. I need to know if we're going to fix this, or if it's time to move on." Emma looked down, fiddling with the edge of her sweater. "I've been thinking too," she said softly. "And I don't think I can give you the answer you're looking for. I nodded, expecting that response, but still feeling the sting of it. Then I think it's best if we go our separate ways, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I love you, Emma, but I can't be in a marriage where I'm not someone's first choice. I deserve more than that. She started to cry, and for a moment I felt like a jerk, but I knew this was the right decision. Staying together out of fear or guilt wasn't fair to either of us. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered through her tears. I know, I said, and I don't want to hurt you either, but sometimes the best thing we can do is let go. We sat there in silence for a while, both of us trying to process what was happening. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But it was my life, and I had to own it. The next few days were rough. We started the process of separating, figuring out who would keep what, and how we were going to handle the logistics of splitting up. It was awkward and painful, but also necessary. Every step we took felt like another weight being lifted off my shoulders, even though it hurt like hell. One night, as I was packing up some of my things, Emma came into the room. Michael, she said quietly, I hope you find someone who makes you happy. Someone who can be everything you need. I looked at her, my chest tightening. I hope you find that too, I said. And that was it. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no long speeches, just two people realizing that sometimes love isn't enough, and it's okay to let go. After Emma moved out, I started focusing on myself. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in a while, threw myself into work, and started figuring out who I was outside of my marriage. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I missed her so much it physically hurt, but I knew I was doing the right thing. One night, a few weeks after Emma left, I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through my phone, when I stumbled across an old photo of us. We looked so happy, so in love. For a moment, I felt a pang of regret, wondering if there was something more I could have done to save us. But then I remembered everything we'd been through, all the pain and confusion, and I realized that sometimes the best thing you can do is let go. I'm not saying I have it all figured out now. I'm still healing, still figuring out what comes next. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. I know I deserve to be with someone who sees me as their first choice, someone who loves me without hesitation or doubt. And I'm willing to wait for that. Moving forward isn't easy, but it's necessary, and I'm ready to take that step. Update 1. So it's been about a month since Emma and I decided to split. It hasn't been easy, but I've been doing my best to move on. I focused on work, caught up with friends, and tried to find some normalcy in this mess. I thought I was making progress, you know? I was starting to feel like myself again. But then, life decided to throw another punch at me. One day I was hanging out with a buddy of mine. We were catching up, talking about random stuff, when he casually dropped a bomb. Hey, did you know Emma's dating someone? He asked, like it was no big deal. I nearly choked on my drink. Wait, what? Already? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Yeah, he said, looking a bit uncomfortable. I saw her at a coffee shop the other day. She was with this guy. They looked close. My heart sank. I mean, I knew we were over, but hearing she was already seeing someone else hit me harder than I expected, especially since we weren't even divorced yet. The paperwork was still being finalized, and here she was, moving on like it was nothing. I tried to play it cool, acting like it didn't bother me. Do you know who the guy is? I asked, trying to sound casual. He hesitated for a second. I think it's that guy she used to talk about before you two got married. You know, the one she had some history with. That's when it all clicked. The constant texting, the weird behavior, her being glued to her phone during those last few weeks. It wasn't just her being distant, it was him. She had been talking to this guy the whole time, even before we decided to split. I didn't say much after that. I just nodded and changed the subject, but inside, I was fuming. I felt betrayed all over again. Not because she was dating someone, that was her choice, but because of the timing. It felt like our entire marriage was a joke to her, like she had one foot out the door long before we even said our goodbyes. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I replayed every moment of our last month together, every time she was on her phone, every time she brushed off my questions. It all made sense now. She wasn't just distant. She was checked out, already focused on someone else. The next morning, I decided to confront her. Not because I wanted to get back together or anything like that, but because I needed closure. I needed to hear it from her, to understand why she couldn't just be honest with me from the start. I sent her a message asking if we could talk. She agreed, and we met up later that day at a park. It was weird seeing her again, especially knowing what I knew now. She looked nervous, like she knew what was coming. Emma, I started, keeping my voice calm. I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. She nodded, not saying a word. I heard you've been seeing someone, I said, watching her reaction closely. Is it true? Her eyes widened for a second, and then she looked away. Yeah, she admitted quietly. I've been seeing someone. Is it the same guy you were talking to before we separated? I asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it from her. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, it's him. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. So, you've been talking to him this whole time? I asked, even when we were still trying to figure things out? She looked down, guilt written all over her face. I didn't plan for it to happen like this, she said. We started talking again and it felt right. Right? I repeated, my voice rising a bit. Emma, we were still married. We were supposed to be working on us, and you were already moving on with someone else. I know, she said, her voice shaking. I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to hurt you. Hearing her apologize didn't make me feel any better. In fact, it just made me angrier. If you were talking to him the whole time, why didn't you just tell me? Why drag this out? I didn't know how to, she admitted. I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you more than I already had. Well, congratulations, I said bitterly. You managed to do that anyway. We sat there in silence for a while, neither of us knowing what to say. I wanted to scream, to yell at her for being so selfish, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. The damage was done, and there was no going back. Finally, I stood up. I hope he's worth it, I said, my voice cold. I hope you're happy with him. Michael, she started, but I cut her off. I don't want to hear it, I said. Just finish the divorce papers and let's be done with this. I walked away, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. I was finally done with Emma, but the pain of betrayal was still fresh. It would take time to heal, but at least now I knew the truth. Moving forward wasn't going to be easy, but at least now I could do it without looking back. Update 2. It's been a few weeks since I confronted Emma about seeing that guy, and honestly, I thought I was done with all the drama. The divorce papers were still in process, but I'd been keeping my distance from her and focusing on rebuilding my life. Things were slowly getting better. I was starting to feel more like myself, even if the whole situation still left a bad taste in my mouth. Then, one evening, I got a message from Emma. Just seeing her name pop up on my phone made my stomach twist. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. The message was short and vague. Can we talk? It's important. I rolled my eyes thinking, what now? Part of me wanted to ignore her, but another part was curious. What could she possibly want after everything? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her the next day. When we met at a coffee shop, Emma looked like a wreck. Her eyes were red and puffy, like she'd been crying for days. She was fidgeting, barely able to look me in the eye. I didn't feel sympathy, though. All I could think about was how much she had hurt me and how I wasn't going to let her back into my life. Michael, she started, her voice shaky. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something. I folded my arms, leaning back in my chair. What is it, Emma? She took a deep breath, tears already welling up in her eyes. The guy I was seeing, he was cheating on me. He was seeing another girl the whole time we were together. I blinked, not expecting that. I didn't say anything, just let her keep talking. I found out a few days ago, she continued, her voice breaking. I confronted him, and he admitted it. He didn't even try to deny it. I feel so stupid, Michael. I left you, and for what? For someone who didn't even care about me. She started crying, covering her face with her hands. I sat there feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and indifference. This was karma, plain and simple. She'd betrayed me for a guy who turned out to be a player, and now she was reaping what she'd sown. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I made such a huge mistake. I thought I wanted something else, but I see now how wrong I was. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to tell you. I waited a moment, letting her cry. Then I said, Emma, I appreciate you telling me the truth, but it doesn't change anything. She looked up, her eyes pleading. Michael, I know I messed up, but can't we at least try to fix things? I still love you. I realize now that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I shook my head. Emma, you didn't love me. You loved the idea of not being alone. And when things got tough, you ran to someone else. I can't be with someone who only comes back when things don't work out with someone else. She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Michael, she whispered. Give me another chance. I'll do anything to make it right. I stood up, my voice firm. Emma, It's too late. I've moved on, and you need to do the same. I deserve someone who chooses me first, not someone who settles or comes crawling back when things go wrong. Her face crumpled, and she started crying again, but I didn't feel sorry for her. This was her mess, not mine. I'm sorry, Emma, I said, softer this time. But we're done. I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving her there in tears. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt free. Emma's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but now it was finally closed. Karma had done its job, and I was ready to move forward for real. Story 6. This story is titled, Sister-in-Law Called the Cops on Me. So I refused to babysit her kids, and now her life is falling apart. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. For years, my sister-in-law Sarah and I had a babysitting arrangement that worked perfectly. We started it back in March 2020 when the pandemic screwed everyone's lives over. She'd watch my kids 3 days a week, and I'd watch hers 3 days. No money exchanged hands, no drama, no bullshit. It was a win-win. And for 3 solid years, we kept it running smoothly. If something came up, we'd give each other plenty of notice, like mature adults. Then Sarah decided to throw all that out the fucking window over one stupid argument. A couple of weeks ago, we had this petty disagreement. I can't even remember what it was about. It was that insignificant. But apparently, Sarah took it personally. I figured she'd cool off after a day, so I didn't dwell on it. The next morning, I dropped my kids off at her place like I'd done 100 times before. I didn't even go inside. That wasn't unusual for us. If one of us was in a rush or just not feeling social, we'd stay in the car, let the kids go inside, and drive off once the door opened. I didn't think twice about it. I waved at her door when I saw it open, and then I headed to work. My commute is about 40 minutes, so I just zoned out to music, totally unaware that shit was about to hit the fan. When I finally got to work and checked my phone, my stomach dropped. I had 20 missed calls and a ton of texts, all from Sarah. The text started off with her saying she wasn't watching my kids that day because of our argument. Then the tone shifted to her bitching about me ignoring her. The last few messages were her threatening to call the police if I didn't pick up my kids within 45 minutes. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I called her immediately, apologizing for not seeing her messages sooner. I explained that my phone was on silent while I drove. You know, because I'm not a moron who texts and drives. I told her I'd leave work early and come get the kids, but she cut me off. You've got 45 minutes, or I'm calling the cops, she said, all smug like she thought she was doing me a favor. I was speechless. Who the hell calls the cops on their own family? I work with kids for a living. If anything about child abandonment ended up on my record, my career would be over. Sarah knew this, and she still pulled this shit, still. I told her I'd leave as soon as I could, but I had to wrap up a few things at work first. My boss was understanding, but even with her support, I couldn't just drop everything immediately. By the time I got back to Sarah's place, it was just over an hour later. 2 squad cars were parked in front of Sarah's place, lights flashing, and my kids were standing on the porch looking scared out of their minds. I wanted to throw up. Sarah was standing there talking to the officers like she was the damn victim in all this, acting all righteous and smug. I got out of my car, took a deep breath, and approached them. My first thought was to yell at Sarah right there in front of everyone, but I knew I couldn't. So I turned to the cops and tried to explain what had happened. There's been a misunderstanding, I told them. I didn't abandon my kids. I dropped them off here this morning like I've done 100 times before, but I didn't see her message saying she couldn't watch them until I was already at work. One of the officers looked at me like he'd heard this story a million times before. You didn't see her messages? He asked, skeptical. No, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I was driving, and my phone was on silent. I called her back as soon as I saw the messages and told her I was on my way. I got here as fast as I could. Sarah, of course, had to chime in. I told you I couldn't watch them today, she snapped. You should have checked your phone before leaving them here. This is on you. I could feel my blood boiling, but I kept it together. I didn't see the texts, Sarah. That's not an excuse to call the cops on me. You know I work with kids. Do you have any idea what this could have done to me? She just shrugged, like it was no big deal. The cops looked between us like they didn't want to be involved in our family drama. One of them finally said, All right, this sounds like a communication issue. There's no crime here, so we're not filing any reports. Just make sure this doesn't happen again. They left, and I grabbed my kids and put them in the car. I didn't even look at Sarah as I walked back to my car, but she just had to get the last word in. Maybe next time you'll check your phone, she yelled after me. This was your fault, not mine. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I'd said anything, it would have been a string of words that would have probably made me look like the crazy one. Instead, I slammed the car door, drove home, and spent the rest of the day trying to calm the fuck down. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. The cops, the smug look on Sarah's face, my kids looking terrified on that porch, the fact that I even had to explain myself to the police. It made my blood boil all over again. She knew what she was doing. She knew exactly how much was at stake for me, and she did it anyway. A few days later, Sarah had the audacity to text me. She said, and I quote, "I think I might have overreacted. Can we go back to the old babysitting schedule?" I stared at the message for a good 5 minutes, trying to decide if I was going to respond or just block her outright. In the end, I decided she needed to hear exactly what I thought. "No, Sarah," I replied. "We're not going back to anything. You called the cops on me, on your own family. You knew what that could have done to me, and you didn't give a fuck. So no, I'm not babysitting your kids ever again. Figure it out," she replied almost immediately, trying to twist it back on me. "If you'd checked your phone or spoken to me when you dropped them off, none of this would have happened," she wrote. "I warned you. I would have handled it differently if I were in your position." I couldn't believe the nerve of this woman. "You're out of your fucking mind if you think this is my fault," I shot back. "You crossed a line and I'm done with you." She kept texting, trying to guilt me into forgiving her, but I didn't reply. I blocked her number and figured that'd be the end of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. A few days later, my brother Mike called me. Now, Mike's usually a chill guy, but when it comes to Sarah, he's whipped as hell. He started off by saying he just wanted to talk, but it quickly turned into him yelling at me. "Why can't you just let this go?" he said. Sarah apologized. She knows she went too far. We're family. You're really going to let one mistake ruin everything? One mistake? I snapped. "Mike, she called the fucking cops on me. Do you understand what could have happened if the cops hadn't believed me? My career would have been over. She knew that and didn't give a shit." "She was pissed," he said. Like that made it okay. "You're really going to hold a grudge over this? You're screwing us over, man. Sarah had to quit her job because we can't afford childcare now. Do you even care what this is doing to us?" "Not my problem," I told him. "You guys made your bed. Now lie in it." Mike went off, calling me selfish, saying I was tearing the family apart. I told him to fuck off and hung up on him. Then my mom called, and I knew I was in for another round of guilt tripping. Sure enough, she started with, "You're being unreasonable. Sarah apologized. Why can't you just forgive her?" "Because this isn't about an apology, Mom," I said. "She didn't just screw me over. She put my entire career at risk. And now you're trying to make me feel bad because she's dealing with the consequences of her actions? Number, I'm done." Of course she didn't get it. She said I was being childish and needed to think about how this was affecting the family. I told her I was thinking about the family. My own family. My kids. Myself. Not Sarah and Mike. And with that, I ended the call. Sarah calling the cops on me was bad enough. But the fallout from that decision was about to ripple through the entire family in ways none of us saw coming. I thought things couldn't get any worse after Sarah called the cops on me, and Mike blew up my phone with his guilt-tripping bullshit. But apparently, I underestimated just how selfish and entitled these two could be. The real kicker came when my mom started paying the price, literally and figuratively, for their irresponsibility. After Sarah quit her job, she dumped her kids on my mom, who apparently decided it was her job to fix the mess. At first, I didn't care. My mom had been defending Sarah, saying I was overreacting, so I figured she'd learn her lesson once Sarah pulled her usual crap on her. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. My mom started looking more and more exhausted every time I saw her. She complained about being tired but wouldn't directly say she was overwhelmed. I knew she was trying to hold it together, but it was obvious that babysitting Sarah's kids 3 days a week was draining her. Then one day, I got a call at work. It was my mom, and she sounded like shit. She was out of breath, saying she didn't feel well. My stomach sank immediately. I told her to stay put and rushed over to her place. When I got there, she looked pale and weak, sitting on the couch like she could barely hold herself up. I asked her what was wrong, and she said her chest felt tight and she had a headache that wouldn't go away. I wasn't about to take any chances, so I took her to the doctor. Turns out her blood pressure was sky high, dangerously high. The doctor said she needed to rest and avoid stress. Of course, I knew exactly what was causing her stress: Sarah and her kids. But even after hearing this, my mom refused to blame Sarah outright. "They're my grandkids," she said when I brought it up. I can't just stop helping. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Helping is one thing. Letting them walk all over you is another. You're not responsible for their kids. That's Sarah and Mike's job. She sighed but didn't say anything. I could tell she wasn't ready to stand up to them yet, but I sure as hell was. The next time Sarah came by to drop off her kids, I happened to be at my mom's place. I wasn't planning on being there, but I'd swung by to check on her, and Sarah showed up, all smiles, acting like she wasn't dumping her problems on a sick woman. Hi, Mom, she chirped, ushering her kids inside. I'll be back around 6. I stepped in before my mom could say anything. Actually, no, you won't, I said, crossing my arms. Sarah froze and looked at me like I'd just slapped her. What do you mean? She asked, her tone immediately defensive. I mean, you're not leaving your kids here anymore, I said. Mom just got out of the fucking doctor's office because of her blood pressure, and the last thing she needs is to babysit your kids while you sit on your ass all day. Sarah's face turned red. I'm not sitting on my ass, she snapped. I'm handling things at home while Mike works. Do you know how hard it is to manage everything? Yeah, I do, I shot back. And guess what? It's your responsibility, not Mom's. Not mine, yours. Figure it the fuck out. My mom tried to intervene, of course. Ashley, that's enough. We can talk about this later. No, Mom, we can't, I said, turning to her. You've been bending over backward for them. And look where it's gotten you, at the doctor's office. It's time to stop. Sarah, meanwhile, was fuming. You don't get to decide that, she hissed. This is between me and Mom. Like hell it is, I said. You're putting her health at risk because you and Mike can't get your shit together. I'm not letting this continue. She stormed out with her kids, muttering under her breath about how I was ruining everything. I didn't care. If she thought she could guilt me into backing down, she was dead wrong. For a while, I thought maybe that confrontation would be the wake-up call Sarah needed. But nope. The very next week, she dropped her kids off at my mom's house again, as if nothing had happened. My mom called me later that day, apologizing for not standing up to Sarah. I just don't know how to say no to her, she admitted. She always makes me feel guilty. Mom, I said, trying not to lose my temper. You have to stop letting her manipulate you. She's not going to stop until you put your foot down. I know, she said quietly. But what about the kids? They didn't ask for any of this. And they're not your responsibility, I reminded her. You can love them without letting their mom walk all over you. The breaking point came a week later, when my mom ended up back in the hospital. Her blood pressure had spiked again, and this time, the doctor warned her that she needed to make serious changes or risk a stroke. Seeing her like that, hooked up to monitors, looking so fragile, broke something in me. When Mike showed up to pick up Sarah's kids, I couldn't hold back anymore. I confronted him right there in the hospital. You and Sarah are killing Mom, I told him bluntly. If you leave your kids with her again, I swear to God, I'll call the cops myself. Don't be ridiculous, he said, rolling his eyes. She loves watching them. She wants to help. Bullshit, I snapped. She's too nice to say no, and you're taking advantage of that. You're putting her health at risk because you and Sarah can't figure out how to parent your own damn kids. Mike didn't like that one bit. He started yelling about how I was being dramatic and making things harder for everyone. I told him I didn't give a fuck. If they couldn't handle their shit, that was on them. Not me, and definitely not my mom. Later that night, I sat down with my mom and told her she had to stop babysitting. I love you, Mom, but this has to end, I said. You've done more than enough. It's time to put yourself first. She cried. Of course. She hated feeling like she was letting anyone down, even people who didn't deserve her kindness. But I think the second hospital visit finally drove the point home. She agreed to tell Sarah and Mike that she couldn't babysit anymore, even though I knew it was going to be a battle. Sarah and Mike weren't going to like it, but I didn't care. They needed to start taking responsibility for their own damn lives, whether they liked it or not. You'd think Sarah and Mike would get the hint after my mom's trip to the hospital, but nope. These two just kept doubling down on their entitlement. When my mom finally told them she couldn't babysit anymore, they acted like she'd just betrayed them. Sarah had a meltdown, crying about how hard it was for her to manage everything and saying my mom promised to help. Mike, as usual, took the passive-aggressive route. He called me up, furious, trying to pin the whole thing on me like it was my fault for turning Mom against them. You happy now? He snarled. Mom won't help anymore because you had to get involved. Yeah, I am happy, I snapped back. Because now she won't end up in the hospital again thanks to you and your wife's bullshit. She wants to help, he shouted. You're making it harder for everyone. No, Mike, you're making it harder for everyone, I said. You and Sarah are lazy as hell and think everyone else should pick up the slack. Mom almost had a fucking stroke because of you two, and you're still acting like the victims. Grow up. He hung up on me after that, but I didn't care. I was done trying to reason with him. If he and Sarah wanted to keep digging their own graves, that was their problem. I wasn't going to lose sleep over it. A few days later, I got a call from my mom. She sounded nervous, which immediately put me on edge. Ashley, Sarah dropped the kids off again, she said, her voice shaking. I saw red. What the fuck? Mom, you told her you couldn't do it anymore. I did, she said quietly, but she just left them here and said she'd be back later. That was it. I'd had enough. I called Sarah, and when she didn't pick up, typical, I left her a voicemail. You've got 45 minutes to pick up your kids, or I'm calling the fucking cops. And unlike you, I'm not bluffing. Get your shit together. I was shaking with rage when I hung up, but honestly, it felt good to give her a taste of her own medicine. Sarah showed up about 30 minutes later, just like I knew she would. She came storming into my mom's house, yelling about how unreasonable I was being. You're taking this way too far, she screamed. You wouldn't actually call the cops on me. Try me, I said, leaning against the counter with my arms crossed. You were more than happy to do it to me, so why the fuck shouldn't I? She kept ranting about how I was blowing things out of proportion, but I didn't engage. I just stared at her until she grabbed her kids and left. My mom looked horrified, but I didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. Someone had to stand up to Sarah, and if my mom couldn't do it, I would. Of course, Mike called me later that night to chew me out. What the fuck is wrong with you? He yelled. You're really threatening to call the cops on us now? You're taking this way too far. Oh, so now it's a problem when someone threatens to call the cops? I shot back. Maybe you should have thought about that when Sarah pulled the same shit on me. She was upset, Mike protested. She didn't mean it like that. Well, now I'm upset. And I do mean it, I said. You two are a fucking train wreck, and I'm not going to let you drag Mom or me down with you. Figure your shit out. You're tearing this family apart, he shouted. No, Mike, you and Sarah are doing that all on your own, I said, and hung up before he could respond. The next week, Sarah tried her usual routine, dropping the kids off at my mom's house without asking. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. I'd already warned her, so I didn't bother calling. I went straight to the police non-emergency line and reported an abandonment issue. I told them there were 2 kids left with a sick elderly woman who couldn't care for them. When the officers showed up, Sarah was absolutely livid. She stormed into my mom's house while they were still there, screaming about how I was ruining her life. This is your fault, she yelled at me. You're destroying my family. No, Sarah, you're destroying your own family, I said calmly. You've been dumping your responsibilities on everyone else, and now it's catching up to you. The officers made her take her kids and warned her not to leave them with someone who couldn't care for them. The look on her face was priceless. She wanted to argue, but even she wasn't stupid enough to push it further. After that, Sarah and Mike stopped trying to involve my mom, but the fallout from their mess was just beginning. Sarah was struggling to handle the kids on her own, and Mike was working overtime to make up for her lost income. Their marriage was clearly strained. Mike even started crashing at my mom's house a few nights a week, which only made things more awkward for everyone. My mom was upset, of course. She hated seeing the family fall apart, but I reminded her that this was all Sarah and Mike's doing. They're reaping what they sowed, I told her. This isn't your fault, and it's not your job to fix it. She nodded, but I could tell she still felt torn. That's the thing about my mom. She's too kind for her own good. But even she was starting to see that Sarah and Mike were beyond help. After the police visit, Sarah and Mike finally seemed to get the message. They stopped dumping their kids at my mom's house, but the fallout was already in full swing. Sarah was stuck at home, trying to manage her kids 24/7, and let's just say she wasn't handling it well. Mike was working nonstop to cover their bills, and the cracks in their marriage were getting bigger by the day. I wasn't surprised when my mom told me Mike had started crashing at her place some nights. Apparently, he needed space from Sarah because the constant fighting was driving him nuts. My mom tried to play it off like it wasn't a big deal, but I could tell she was worried. She kept saying things like, I just want everyone to get along, and family shouldn't be this way. I love my mom, but I couldn't help rolling my eyes. Mom, this isn't about getting along. Sarah and Mike made their bed, and now they're lying in it. This is on them, not us. But Ashley, she said, her voice cracking. What if they can't make it work? What if this breaks their family? I sighed. If their family is falling apart, that's because they refuse to take responsibility for their own lives. You can't keep fixing everything for them. Meanwhile, Sarah started spreading her version of the story to anyone who would listen. According to her, I was the villain who refused to help my own family in their time of need. She left out the part where she called the cops on me, of course. Instead, she painted herself as a struggling mom, just trying to do her best while I selfishly turned my back on them. I started getting calls from extended family members, all parroting Sarah's bullshit. "Why can't you just help them out?" one aunt asked. "It's not like you're doing anything wrong, but you're making their lives so much harder." "Oh, I'm making their lives harder," I snapped. "Did Sarah tell you she called the fucking cops on me? Because that's why we're here." The silence on the other end of the line was always golden. I wasn't about to let her rewrite the narrative and make me out to be the bad guy. The drama hit its peak about a month later when Mike showed up at my mom's house in the middle of the night. He was drunk off his ass and rambling about how he couldn't take it anymore. And yes, before you ask, I'd warned my mom not to let him stay there, but she's too soft-hearted to turn him away. When I found out the next morning, I called him, ready to let him have it. "What the fuck is wrong with you, Mike? Showing up at mom's house like that? She doesn't need this shit." "You don't understand," he slurred, clearly still hungover. "Sarah's driving me crazy. She's always bitching about how hard things are, and I'm the one working my ass off to keep us afloat." "Well, maybe if you two had your shit together, you wouldn't be in this mess," I snapped. "But hey, keep blaming everyone else. That's been working great for you so far." He started yelling, but I hung up before he could finish. I wasn't wasting any more energy on him. The final nail in the coffin came a few weeks later when Sarah officially quit her job for good. She'd been trying to hold on to a part-time gig, but between the cost of childcare and her inability to manage her kids without help, she gave up. Mike, meanwhile, picked up even more hours at work, but it still wasn't enough. Their bills were piling up, and their savings, if they even had any, were gone. I found out from my mom that they were considering moving back in with Sarah's parents several hours away. "They don't have many options left," she said, sounding genuinely sad. "Good," I said bluntly. "Maybe they'll figure out how to handle their shit without dragging everyone else down with them." She didn't respond, but I could tell she was still holding on to some hope that things would turn around. I didn't share her optimism. People like Sarah and Mike don't change unless they're forced to, and even then, it's a long shot. A few weeks after that, I got a call from Mike. It was short and to the point. "We're moving," he said. "Thanks for nothing, asshole." I couldn't help but laugh. "You're welcome," I said, and hung up. As of now, Sarah and Mike are out of the picture. They moved back in with Sarah's parents, and from what I've heard, their relationship is hanging by a thread. I'd be lying if I said I felt bad for them. They brought this on themselves, and I'm not about to lose sleep over it. My mom is doing better now that she's not babysitting or dealing with their drama. She still talks about how sad it is that the family fell apart, but I remind her that it's not our job to fix people who don't want to be fixed. As for me, I've made my peace with the situation. I don't think my relationship with Mike and Sarah will ever recover, but honestly, I'm okay with that. Some people need to hit rock bottom before they learn anything, and even then they might not change. At the end of the day, I have my own family to take care of, and that's where my focus is. If Sarah and Mike want to keep playing the victim, they can do it without me. I'm done.